sunset. It's full of hope and answers. Let yourself go free and be drawn into these good vibrations. Is right in front of you. Everything that you can give will only be returned to you. Have you ever felt the sunset? It's full of hope and answers. Let yourself go free and be drawn these good vibrations. There is nothing here. It's not in constant change. Constant change. This can come with something. Like daylight comes to night, nighttime. Have you ever felt the sunset? these good vibrations. Have you ever felt the sunset? It's full of hope and answers. Let yourself go free and be drawn into these good vibrations.
Good morning, everybody, and happy to join you to share with you a presentation on perfumery and self-reliance. Self-reliance is often defined as about meeting essential needs in a sustainable manner. And that's more from an individual point of view. But when you look at it from a business point of view, I think world trade started in a much, much bigger way once the WTO rules were set up 25, 30 years ago or so. And at that point in time, everybody thought, especially in the West, that the opportunity to export into China and into India would be a huge opportunity. You would always hear these kind of comments of you could sell one pair of shoes to a person in China, you have over 1 billion pairs of shoes to sell. What people didn't realize very quickly is that in many countries in Asia, became very adept at manufacturing in a very cost-efficient way, which had great impact on Western economies in terms of jobs, in terms of growth, and led to considerable social unrest also over a fairly long period of time. I think today, as climate change becomes much worse, this whole need for self-reliance is coming back again, so that if and when things do become really bad, at least you're somewhat more self-contained in your own country. But against that, you definitely need at the same time a good amount of trade to take place where you buy and sell. You sell what you can make in excess, you sell what you make well. And the challenge for a country will always be to make more goods well than most other countries, which will help you to prosper in multiple kinds of ways. So going from there, I'd really like to focus a little bit on the fragrance industry and the fragrance industry as it relates to you and your business, because at the end of the day, you all are the biggest consumers of fragrances, and this industry is very dependent on you. So I'll share with you some facts and figures which are quite revealing. The value of fragrance today, what are the kind of challenges that we face, and finally ending up with solutions for a more sustainable future overall. Let's look at fragrances today. I think today, fragrance companies, people that manufacture fragrances, basically source materials from over 50 countries around the world. And it's not isolated to a particular region or to a particular continent. These countries are spread out right from South America, right all the way to Australia as you go around the globe. In addition to that, there are about 360,000 jobs that are created which depend on the fragrance industry itself. So while the core fragrance industry, which is really the production of compounds that go into all the products that you manufacture, are not that many, the suppliers that supply raw materials are in the thousands. And this is where all these jobs are created. And it's interesting to know that out of these 360,000 jobs, more than half these jobs are really between India and China, which are large sources of raw materials to the fragrance industry, both as naturals and as chemicals also at the same time. Another important thing is one of the key reasons in many categories why people choose to buy products is because of the quality of the fragrance. And up to 80% of consumers very often are willing to pay more for a product which has the superior fragrance. And the total sales that are generated out of fragrances that go into consumer products all around the globe are as much as 357 billion euro. And all this came out of a study that the International Fragrance Association did 2 years ago for its industry and for all its members. Let's look next at the value of fragrance. And what are the different steps in getting to fragrances from the raw materials right until a product is consumed in your house? So let's look at suppliers for the beginning. You have natural products, and these can be anything from citrus oils to woods to lavender. On the other side, you have a lot of synthetic products which have been used increasingly so over the last century. And most of these are all organic chemical derived. There's a new category which is slowly coming into place, which is products coming out of biotechnology, but it's still extremely small. But inevitably, this will be something that would grow over the next decade to quite an extent. So most of these ingredients, which employ 300,000 people more or less all around the world, then gets applied into people who actually blend fragrances together. So you will get natural products and synthetic products, which is in your pink column there. Then moves on to manufacturing companies like Givaudan, Firmenich, IFF, and hosts of other companies that blend them. And as they blend them, they do a lot of research into the products to really find the best possible fragrances for their customers. And these then are eventually supplied to manufacturers of finished goods, which range from fine fragrances to personal care products, to home care and cleaning products, and to industrial and institutional products also at the same time. And these products finally, which is what you make, moves on into the retail industry, from large supermarkets to small stores, and more and more through e-commerce over the recent years. So that's the whole value chain of fragrances as it exists today. What are the challenges that we face today in the fragrance business? I think short term, we still, and hopefully this will not be too much of a long-term issue, is the long-lasting pandemic that we have. And I think what's going to be crucially important over the coming years is how are we going to manage the planet's resources overall as we strive for a better future. Let's deal with the former first. So when you look at the effect of the pandemic, has led to a lot of change in behavior. I think a lot of that has come in the beginning. Some of this has moved away, and time will only tell what would be the long-term impact that it will have. So working from home is still extremely prevalent. As the virus abates to a certain extent, this tussle between people wanting you to come back to a physical place of work and you wanting to stay at home and work, or vice versa, which happens in certain cases also, all this is going to be played out over the next few years as we see how work actually adjusts. I think as people have got used to living at home, you end up cooking at home much more because you couldn't get out to eat at restaurants very much. Or alternatively, in many places, what you end up doing is buying food and having it delivered from outside. Entertainment, for a large measure, had come to a standstill for quite some time. Social isolation was very much more prevalent. And people began to get much more focused about the environment, about the well-being, being somewhat older. I mean, in my own case, I find long-lost friends from school, from university, everywhere. You get into new groups and you build new alliances after a long period of time. So a lot of change taking place overall. Question is, as this situation evolves, do we go back to just our own ways as before? Highly unlikely, but there will be some fundamental changes. It's been the golden age for e-retail in many ways. People have converted to new ways of shopping. People have converted to buying things online completely. People are much more open to try different brands and to try different websites, are even ready to look at what are, no-name brands, store brands, and try new digital methods. I mean, if we just look at the Indian context, Amazon has exploded, selling over $1 billion worth of new goods, creating, I believe, even more than 300,000, but over 500,000 new jobs. And a lot of these a lot of this business is not coming from the big cities. A lot of it is coming from tier 2 and increasingly from tier 3 cities. You can see in a company like Nikal, which listed recently, the tremendous response that it got at listing, and also the great business that it's built over the last few years as being the place to go to for all your beauty products, whether you're going for most expensive, high value creams, lotions, right down to some at times to products that you use almost of everyday use. So huge change in this area overall. And then new standards, because the demand for cleaner products, clean label, green products, transparency, transparent. What are you putting into my product? How do you ensure that there's no toxicity? How do you ensure that your packaging is going to be recyclable and reusable at the same time? And there is a certain amount of germophobia, which evidently has increased to a great extent. People look at germ-killing products, anti-bac products. You look for this all the time in whatever you buy. If you look at the luxury sector suffered all around the world enormously during 2020. I mean, you could see duty-free shops were almost closed most of the year. The airlines industry was in a shambles, but this has had a huge rebound in 2021. I think most of the luxury brands are seeing sales which are, and if you took on the average that they had 6-7% of growth over the previous years, if they lost a large amount, they are 15-20% higher than 2019. So a lot of that has been recovered completely, which is a big plus for this industry completely in the way that they're really going. And that's been seen in perfume sales also at the same time. When I look at a small brand that I partly own in France at the high luxury end, basically we're seeing a very strong rebound in sales in 2021 as compared to 2019. On the other side, you also see a great deal of eco-consciousness coming through as far as beauty brands go. Chloe set up a a way to test fragrances where you don't have to touch anything. You just put so it's almost like a hand sanitizer, but it's giving you perfume. And people are really beginning to look at how can we get alcohol, not from traditional petroleum products that we used in the past, but can we get it from waste carbon monoxide from a steel plant or from a cement plant, which is there, and from carbon dioxide also. Let's move a little bit to talk about what's happening from a climate point of view. In 1970, we say that basically we could live with one Earth. Today, we would need 1.7 Earths for the world to survive, or for us to survive on this planet. Which means that, does it mean that close to half of our population should really migrate to other planets, if that's going to be possible in the next 20, 30 years? Or do we really need to cut our consumption and live in much simpler kind of fashion to be able to do this differently? And there are three sources for everything that we use. On one side, you have things coming out of mining and oil extraction. The second, land for agriculture. And the third, animals for farming. Let's touch base on each one of these three for a little while. If we talk of mining and oil extraction, I'm a chemical engineer by origin. With all my chemical engineering classmates from close to 50 years ago, a lot of our discussions these days are, by becoming chemical engineers, did we contribute enormously to the destruction of the planet in some way or the other? And this kind of argument amongst our group gets pretty heated at times. But to see that over the last century, that we've been totally dependent on oil, as a result of that, the kind of climate effect that it has been huge, and it's been hugely dependent on mining also at the same time. Coal mines in the past, But in the future, I think it's also going to be mining for everything that we need for whether it's our telephones, our TVs, or anything like that. Or our cars. There's a huge demand for all this. On the next site is really land for agriculture, for food to eat, or even more so for food for the animals to eat that we in turn then need to eat at the same time. And this has a big impact, and we've got to grow things in a much, much more efficient manner. And we've got to find ways to really, which is the last point, how can we really cut the consumption of meat in an enormous kind of way, which is going to be needed over the next few years. And that's going to come partly from how do we deal with plant proteins, and ultimately, how do we get cell line meat for food that we need to eat? Is this ever going to happen? Are we ever going to have in the next 5 to 10 years a single cell which is going to produce most of the meat that we need? And is it going to be tasting as good for people who like to eat meat? I saw a movie yesterday called Meat the Future, which is actually a company called Upside Food in the US, which is working on this and has been working for this for the last few years, started by an Indian, originally a doctor, Uma Valeti, who is in the forefront of the companies that is really leading this charge to a certain extent. So when we look at all this and talk a little bit on and its impact on the perfume industry, I think I need to start by saying that we can't solve all our, which is what Einstein said years ago, we can't solve all our problems that we have with the same thinking that we continue with when we create these problems. And this is very true. I mean, if we need to solve the problems of energy, it's not necessarily going to be the petroleum companies that are going to solve this in the best possible way. And it's going to come eventually through new technology, and it's going to come in new kinds of ways. And then eventually people will follow up as it happens. It's like what's happening in the car industry just now. So what's happening in the world first on the Sustainable Development Goals? So we have 20 goals that were defined by the UN. Some of them are very relevant to the fragrance industry. But when you look at the fragrance industry overall, and you look at the amount of CO2 that it produces, and we talk about getting to carbon neutral by 2050, earlier than that in certain cases. But when you look at it in the GHG1 and GHG2, which are the first two elements of carbon neutrality, for a perfume company, only 10%, or less than 10%, is coming from GHG1 and GHG2 gases, which are very much about energy consumption that you have in your plant and energy consumption that you generate on your own or which you buy. GHG3, which is 90% of your carbon footprint, is coming from all your suppliers on everything that you buy. So until your whole supply chain gets cleaned up to a certain extent, you're not going to be able to deal with this issue of really managing carbon neutrality to a large extent. And so this will have to be a continuous battle or a continuous work over the next 20 years to work with every supplier that you have, as I said, from the depths of Argentina to Indonesia to Madagascar to all the countries which are important for the supply of fragrance and flavor ingredients overall. And I think we'll have to manage this in much more of a circular economy where materials can be repurposed and used, like what begins to happen in the plastic industry. So coming to this, we see a situation today where basically the fragrance industry overall, under the auspices of the International Fragrance Association, set up a new sustainability charter, which has a strong sense of responsibility, a commitment to sustainability. And I see in the own company where I'm involved in to a large extent, just the fact that we planted 500,000 trees over the last 2 years is a step in the right direction, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. So let's look at raw materials that go into all the products that you need and which you use. So for us to have sustainable fragrances over a period of time, will have to come from 3 areas. One would have to be natural. And natural doesn't necessarily mean more sustainable per se. There are a lot of synthetics today which may be a lot more sustainable than natural. So today, for a natural to be sustainable, we have to make sure about, look at the total cycle in the production of that natural to ensure, look at water consumption, look at power consumption, looking at all that. And some of the things that we use today, it's more sustainable if it's done by chemical processes. So these need to be measured properly. The second thing, which is extremely important, and I think not enough importance is given to it when you read in the press about things like this, is the biodegradability of ingredients. And the fact that materials need to be biodegradable so that you don't end up with a lot of material in soil or polluting streams, polluting different areas. And the third thing is that you will have to go through this process of trying to be more and more carbon neutral over a period of time. So how can we make a lot of the fragrance ingredients that we use today, starting with waste gases? Will this be possible to be able to make this out of CO2 to a certain extent? And how do we get the hydrogen that would be necessary to be able to capture all this together? So when you look at this, I think at Givaudan, where we've been involved in for the last 30 years, we've looked at how do we eco-design fragrances differently. An in-depth review of the whole creative process. So it's right down to looking at the footprint of individual ingredients. How do we source them? How do we research them to take them more towards biotech processes, more carbon neutral processes, or different starting materials? And then try to create, with all this in mind, giving a scorecard to individual ingredients. So eventually you end up with a scorecard for a given fragrance. So how does this come through? It comes through 4 areas. One is naturals. So how do you ensure that your naturals are more sustainable in your usage of energy as you produce them? How do you use waste materials to produce new ingredients that are needed? You take a typical case of something like vetiver, which is a highly prized ingredient in the fragrance industry. It's used in expensive fragrances, but in the waste of vetiver, you can extract certain things which are very useful in the cosmetics industry. How do we use biotechnology to make ingredients cheaper and at the same time with a much lower carbon footprint? And the last thing is, how do we make biodegradable molecules overall itself? When you look at new generation of materials, there are 3 areas that we look at quite a lot. One is green biotechnology, of using either advanced extraction techniques to capture the most precious metabolites of plant cells. But I think the other portion also is that how do you do cell culture at the same time to be able to drive particular components that you need in a particular oil or a particular wood to be able to get that to the maximum? Or how do you reduce elements in it which may have problems of skin sensitization so you can drive that away? Blue biotechnology is somewhat undervalued until today, but over the next 5 years is going to come more and more into prominence about using microalgae to identify new molecules that bring skincare benefit, but it's also going to be very important in food over the coming years. And the most widely used one until today is white biotechnology, of using microorganisms, both through fermentation and bioconversion and the use of enzymes. A lot of this is originally based on sugar, But a lot of this is, increasingly, it is going to be based on waste raw materials also to the same extent. So another company that I'm involved in is Msme, where the input is sugar and you get high value sweeteners, which basically are 250, 300 times sweeter than sugar. So you end up using a very little amount of sugar to be able to produce biotech products, so saving a lot of land and resources that would be used to grow sugar at the same point in time. If you look at the European situation today, there is a huge move today to what's called the European Green Deal. And the whole idea behind this is how to cut back on the chemicals and to come to a position where it really says that you will only manufacture chemicals that are absolutely necessary. Of course, this definition of absolutely necessary is going to take many years before it really goes through. But when we look at the 5,000 materials that we use in the perfume industry today, would this go to 500? And if it goes to 500, how should we be making this? And given the fact that India today is a big producer of aroma chemicals to be used in perfumery, big producer of naturals to be used in perfumery, how do we do all the right work in India to be able to look at that we have the strongest technologies to make the molecules that are going to be the most important for the future? And how can we increase the research base to be able to drive this in a much stronger way? So when we look at all that that I've tried to go through and very rapidly in the last 20 minutes or so, I think as we go into the next couple of years, with the multitude of problems that we have, especially on climate change, I think we're going to need a huge amount of resilience to have a business that stays strong and at the same time stays committed to living in harmony with nature and cutting our carbon footprint to a large extent. At the same time, whatever we make for you needs to smell nice and it needs to be sustainable. Yes, people are ready to pay a premium and pay a small premium for products which are more sustainable, but I don't think the time has come as yet where people are ready to pay much higher prices, and we're not ready to face huge inflationary pressures like we're already beginning to really reel under the inflation that we have today. But at the same time, we have to get into a change of mindset, because if we have a few precipitous events that take place, it'll drive us towards changing this mindset much faster than what we've looked at in the past. So as I try to end this discussion, I just want to leave you with two thoughts. Over the last 10 years, I think we've really begun to feel, the human race has really begun to feel in many ways that we are the masters of the universe. We're in control about just about everything, that we can extend life for another 50 years and people can live till 150, and maybe in the past, maybe people can live forever. I think all recent changes has really cut us down to quite an extent and really make us feel that this is, times are really getting different. And are we coming to a situation where we are being hunted everywhere today? Where between the earthquakes that we have, the droughts that we have, fires that are everywhere, flooding that happens instantaneously at certain places. And do we really come to a situation where we become the hunted, where we're still living with a sense of hubris? Which brings me to my last slide, which was a few quotes coming out of Mark Carney, who used to be the governor of the Bank of England, but deeply involved in climate change affairs just now and deeply involved in the COP26, especially on the finance side. Will our economies yield to human values at some point in time? It's not the case today. And everybody's running a business, everybody's running companies, everybody has profits to make. But is this change going to take place to a certain extent, where basically human values are really going to come first, and the protection of the planet comes before that? What is more valuable to the planet? Amazon, the company, is $1.5, $2 trillion, whatever it is. Can it go to 5 at some point in time? But what is the value of Amazonia? And is it more important? And will it have more an effect on us in the longer term? And then finally, we lived through the pandemic just now, when true climate change really comes, there is nowhere for us to self-isolate. So just with these last few thoughts, I wanted to leave you to reflect over this and wish you a very good continuation of your meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, IHPCIA, for giving this particular opportunity for me to present at this particular platform and representing Galaxy for one of the sharing our thoughts on one of the topic. And so as an introduction, myself, Chintan Vora, and I look after the home care sector as a segment management at Galaxy. I've been associated with Galaxy for close to a decade and into this family. I'm a chemical graduate as well as a management graduate from ICT and JBMS respectively. Thank you very much. You will be knowing about Galaxy, many of you, but still as a part, I would love to have a small introduction to you. And Galaxy, as you know, is a leading global player in the field of surfactants and specialty chemicals. And we cater to the home and personal care industry. So we have the range of surfactants and sunscreen agents and polymers, as well as soaps, bases, and a lot of other home and personal care ingredients that we supply to the home and personal care industry across the globe. So yes, going ahead with respect to the topic for this particular session, and the topic for today is about challenges of being Atmanirbhar. We might have just heard around that we have seen the initiatives that has been taken by our government of India with respect to being Atmanirbhar mission, which has been announced with respect to bringing back India on the recovery path and then dominating the world with respect to how we can have create a global market for our products, for our services, for our systems. So that's how the mission of self-reliance have been announced, and the economic packages related to that has been also announced, so that it actually drives the motto. When it came to the aspect of being challenges of being Atmanirbhar, when I was thinking about it, there are many challenges, but yes, they also present a lot of opportunities for our people and exactly the industry members. For there is a big role to play, which we'll be looking now to actually drive this Atmanirbhar and convert these challenges into beautiful opportunities, which is going to bring a lot more change to the industry as a whole. The industry we are talking about is home care. And as you know, home care is a very, very resilient, but at the same time, versatile industry. Different types of players exist in this market. There is a range of products. It's all related to hygiene, close to our heart. It's a part of our daily routine. So it's beautiful to talk about this particular segment here and exactly how, as a part of the daily routine, this products, we can make India as a shining supplying of this ingredients worldwide and this products worldwide. That's how we are going to talk about, look from that perspective, exactly how we should overcome the challenges that we are facing right now for Atmanirbharta and create opportunities and drive the global growth. So this is going to be a rough flow of our presentation, a talk today, basically understanding what have been the transformation in the home care industry, which we have seen recently and particularly post-COVID. And then exactly how we gel this up with respect to the Atmanirbharta, the future needs and the current, Atmanirbharta program. Understand the challenges, and we will sure look at certain areas where our actions can really make difference and create beautiful landscape for the future and overcoming all these challenges. So we are going to talk about that, and we understand the emerging picture, exactly what all we need to do and how we need to do, importantly. Home care precisely have always been more as a perception with respect to being cost effective or a daily routine or a low involvement product containing industry. But yes, as COVID had come up, people really got involved into the household chores, especially in urban areas. We all know about the entire transition that has happened, and particularly because of this post pandemic, there has been a transformation in the needs of the product, and consumers have diverse needs which have been evolved and which is now going to drive the home care transformation. Consumers are looking forward for more convenient products, convenient formats, convenience in terms of applications, in terms of usability. Consumers are going to look after with respect to use of technologies which are going to drive for sustainable living. We have examples from the West where we have washing machines and the high efficiency technologies, and reducing the usage of water, reducing the amount of the foam, so the rinsing is easy. All those technologies will be very, very important for us to going forward to conserve water, conserve energy. We have seen the expansion in terms of introduction in terms of pods in the market in India as well. Conscious cleaning is another area where consumers are now looking forward for products which are surely making sure, having eco-friendly attributes with respect to being less harmful on the earth. And consumers are curious to know exactly what is in it in the product. So it's very, very important. Next is multifunctional aspect. Like, how can I have one product used for multiple applications? So I have to use lesser quantity, or I have to buy in small quantities, or lesser units of the packages, or as well as they are looking for more from less with respect to having good functionality, in the sense that it does a variety of things with respect to delivering different properties or different cleansing functionalities within a less number of ingredients into the pack. So basically reducing the load on environment. So with this, when the self-reliant India or the Atmanirbhar Bharat is announced, the idea is not about isolation, but idea is about creating inside out channel flow. That is, we make for the global market, we create technologies, we create innovations, and we drive our trends, and we become the leader in the market. That's how the essence takes it. So be competent with respect to the world market, and be relevant for the world as the time goes ahead, and we need to be ready for our future needs as well. And that's how as our Prime Minister as well as our government talks about, that we need to actually pump up our economy, or it talks on the pillars of developing infrastructure for future, developing systems and digital agendas for future, ensuring that our demography is completely leveraged, and creating an inherent demand through creation of jobs, as well as improvising on the lives of the people across. But this self-reliance, which we are talking specifically now today about the home care industry, should not be seen in isolation. And whenever we are talking about creation of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, or the infrastructure, or even taking initiatives in direction of that, it should be seen from the perspective or prism of what is going to be future in this industry. So what should be the home care industry in 2030 look like, 2040 look like? And accordingly, knowing this future needs, is very important that the self-reliance goal or the Atmanirbhar goal should be accordingly been put across. The strategies or the entire pathway to attain that has to be according to attain the objectives of the future needs. So as we know, future is all going to be critical from the climate perspective and the sustainability perspective. So products should be driven by sustainability and quality. And yes, if we have to be inside out, then it's obviously comply to the global standards. We have a perception, as well as it's there as per the facts and the data, that yes, it's also significantly an unorganized segment. Slowly we need to move into the organized segment systems, because that's where going to drive innovations, as well as going to drive a strong coordinated strategy for the home care. And a lot of innovations as well as developments will be required to actually take this innovation industry ahead significantly, because we are having a significant gap compared to the advanced economies. So home care ecosystem, when we are going to talk about challenges of being Atmanirbhar, we need to understand what is the ecosystem we are talking about. We are talking about application products of home care, which will be obviously made from input ingredients that we are going to use. And through the technologies and the innovation of the manufacturing aspects, it involves packaging as well. The home care ecosystem also has a adjacent product with the core product of our application products as the cleansers, or the various appliances that are there. And also there is an aspect of the commercial services that we see as an institutional care, right? Now, if we need to we see each of them into each of this components. We understand where exactly a lot of work has to be done. First, home care significantly needs a component for dependency today is about the raw material. Beyond miners, the two major sources of the raw materials are already vegetable-based palm oil, from where majority of the surfactant soaps. And there are only two alternatives that comes initially in the mind. One is there going to be a domestic production of the palm oil? Well, yes, our government has been trying so. There are challenges where exactly, we'll be able to deliver that or not. There are challenges with respect to the productivity, with respect to the time that this is going to take the yield to come in, the land availability, and with respect to the land as well, there is also the challenge with respect to a lot of ecological, counter effects which are going to come in if we are considering the Andaman Nicobar belt and the Northeast belt for the palm oil. Government has taken an initiative with respect to having the national mission on the edible oils palm oil. But yes, it is a long way, and it's going to take a tremendous efforts, and obviously while taking care that we don't create another problem of ecology while solving one. So, those questions are still a lot of gray areas, and which needs to be, further clarified for the industry. The substitutions with respect to the alternative vegetable oils are also there, but then again, they also have a threat with respect to how much amount of the dependency will be created or the load will be created, which will again affect the food chains. The best in this particular scenario will be moving towards 100% biodegradable, eco-friendly and safe process-based green surfactants. Example like a biosurfactant, which does not, which can be developed with our indigenous technologies of fermentation in India, and which we can actually drive it on a bigger scale, and which does not require a dependency in terms of the oil. Again, a scale up and a lot of technology development is a gray area, which presents an opportunity for the industry people to actually work on this particular domain. Technology and R&D. Now, this is another key segment. While we have a very good, history, as well as we have been developing a lot of new ingredients and products in the industry, in the market, in India as well, it's important that we further intensify our technology and R&D involvement, particularly in the areas where we are currently importing the technologies or we are importing certain ingredients. There is we have a good brain in the country. We have a good skill set in the country. It's important that it is properly channelized and we develop indigenous technologies as well as invest in future R&Ds. Our percentage R&D expense should increase in these lines. Develop technologies, the machinery like for manufacturing of the pods or high-end sustainability packaging, and all those future needs-based products should be indigenously developed in India, and for which we require an R&D ecosystem. So suggested are some of those where exactly, this have been proven very beautifully good in other sectors, basically of packaging or steel or, certain other areas where centers of excellence can really work out beautifully. So the idea is to creation of the center of excellence. Now, here one more aspect which I would like to bring into here. It should be aid to develop the technologies which can be then taken up by the mass adoption and be relevant with respect to the profile of this industry has. That is a lot of local and micro players as well. So it should be, as effective and as adoptable. The technologies should be indigenously developed, which can help the local customers and the players also, being able to adopt that. There is also an aspect of how you can have a shared laboratory. The idea of the shared laboratory is when our home care players into the market are able to come up with an idea, come up with a thought process, we should be able to explore those ideas. All ideas are very important. They somewhere lead to some of the innovations. So they should be explored. They should be given a chance and incentive to explore and, innovate. There should be incentives for actually setting up the global R&D centers or the global development centers of the appliances or the home care products manufacturing in India. And we have many of those. And yes, there is a scope for many more to come in. And this all will create an ecosystem, and it will all create a more stimuli or new, for ideas and new products and new innovations development, which will drive future technologies at a faster pace. This is another area, the regulatory, which is very, very important when it comes from the consumer or the having equal platform for different players to work to actually have the market attractiveness enhanced. Regulatory is very, very critical. We have seen that, we have a relatively lesser, what you call as the regulatory part with respect to home care category is not up to the significant standards of safety, as well as, there is a lot of improvisation room that can be there. Now, creation of this regulatory standards will very, very importantly enhance the market attractiveness, because it's going to provide a common platform, an objective way of looking at the products, and that will also define the quality perspectives and drive the value perception. It's also important because the consumer perception will improve towards adoption of the local or the indie-made brands. And that's how the quality products and future innovations by the small players that will be accepted well. Obviously, for the home care, the way it is having the entire profile in the industry with respect to having a lot of our key members, in smaller local levels marketing the products. They always work towards adjusting and adopting this particular products and technologies towards according to the neighborhood in which they sell the product. Now, India demography is very, very versatile. We have a range of, we have a income inequality towards, towards widespread. And that's how very important is that to ensure that every person is able to get the hygiene, because hygiene is primary. So every person is able to be having accessibility and affordability towards the products. So accordingly, the gradations can be created within the standards, which can take care of the entire Indian demography. Also, the industry bodies, industry leaders can also help to have a consultation provision to all the players in the home care industry. But ultimately, with the having and the regulatory aspect can really enhance the market perceptions. Importantly is also that for people to participate and come forward for the manufacturing and investing into the home care products, it's important to have the right environment created, and also transforming the industry profile, creating an attractiveness aspect in it further. Whatever is right, there is a lot of attractiveness right now, but there is a lot of scope to enhance it further. Home care segment, significantly, we have a portion which is unorganized. A large number of small size participants are also there. And that's how it's important that we as an industry and government should participate to actually support the small scale industries, which have a potential to significantly grow. Sometimes the issues are related to finances. The idea is why cannot we can have a body or a council which can take care of a working capital management, which will support to improve the returns. We can have incentives to develop local products, locally made innovations. Introduction of the PLI scheme in this particular segment can also help. Another area is where driving aggregation and consolidation of the different market segments, or basically different activities that this particular players are together doing, we all are doing. Those can help scale benefits of scale to aid transformation, as well as aiding the different innovations and enhancing the product values as well. So industry bodies obviously need to play the guardian role into entire of this particular agenda of Atmanirbharta, because ultimately it is going to require a lot of coordinated efforts. The local associations can step up their role in promoting quality and sustainability of the products. We have a lot of local associations across the country, state-wise, locality-wise as well, where they drive the home care groups and they have their own association to actually share a shared vision and a shared agenda. It's appeal to all the associations to actually take up this aspect of Atmanirbharta, and wherein they can drive, with respect to their role in promoting quality products, affordable products, as well as being sustainability better. And that's how they adopt the ideas, aid implementations, allow the adoption towards the local habits, motivate to adopt better practices, processes, and systems. There is also an idea of having a collectives or cooperatives which can drive together the entire business, have the leveraging and merging of the variety of skill sets that they have, and accordingly there can be a coordinated efforts. These coordinated efforts can again help us to have scales to adopt to different developments, as well as upgrade yourselves in terms of giving a value product and obviously become relevant to the global world. Government councils can also promote this platform through academia, through Skill India or Startup India, or different kind of initiatives that the government is running for, as well as government can even provide platform into that different organizations as well as institutionals which are focusing on skill development. The questions that was once asked, and that's why I actually took this up, is like, self-reliance, does it mean that I will look after myself? No, it's not about isolation. It's not about no collaboration. It's not about no exchange. It's more about how I strengthen myself to be further more relevant and above the edge in the global participation, to use our own strengths, to use our own resources, to use and be competitive for the global world. And that's how it's important to drive the growth and the innovation quotient. And you can use a multiple of opportunities. We need to use this multiple of opportunities to participate in the global agenda through collaborations for technologies, technology exchange, innovations, as well as alleviating ourselves with respect to the manufacturing hub of global standards, where we can actually drive exports. So yes, we need to work on all of these agendas together with respect to driving, collaborations which can exchange the information, and it's not about complete isolation. The emerging picture out of all of this, particularly for the home care, is given the vast size of this industry, given the very, very versatile profile that this industry carries, it's very important that this shared vision requires great determination, and the industry leaders, industry participants, the members need to come together. And there is a requirement of a coordinated efforts. There is a requirement of a coordinated strategy. Otherwise, it may, over the period of time, figure out. And that's how it's very important that the participation of all is critical. The industry bodies can take certain lead with respect to, driving certain year-wise strategies and transforming the industry, bringing certain innovations with certain incentives, driving the awareness quotient among the home care players, educating them, motivating them to follow the best practices across the world, and surely automatically the transformation will begin to occur. Galaxies themselves have also been, we have been leading certain transformations in our best possible way as a part of contribution to the industry. Just a few months back, we launched our home care brand, Galaxy Hearth. Hearth, which means home, heart, and earth. The idea of this brand with respect to home care is how we can provide sustainable, yet affordable, yet very, very highly effective and performing products for our customers and thus our consumers. Bring innovations closer to them in a very, very convenient, easy to acceptable mode, so that every person, every player can able to accept this particular innovations as well as drive them and actually help to spread across the industry and become an adoption. First example is Earth Mix Pods. So we have come across with respect to how we have our own composition and a concoction with respect to a pod composition, so that any customer is able to prepare the pods directly and are able to market it. So this is a ready concept which is there for easy adoption, wherein the home care player is only need to take this product and package it, and we provide help through our third-party vendors into the packaging solutions as well. Whereas we also have Earth Mix LLDC, which is about driving the transformation from powder detergent to a sustainable liquid laundry systems formats, using a very, very cost-effective yet high-performing concentrate, and with having lesser amount of fossil fuels and more into the plant-based chemistry. So these are a few snapshots of the contributions. You may come across with more of this kind of solutions in the time to come from the brand platform of Earth. Thank you very much for your time. These were some of the thoughts that I wanted to express with respect to how the challenges that we talk about in Atmanirbharta, surely they actually are the other phase of what opportunities they present us for the transformation of the industry, for actually driving some changes in the industry and creation or having help India to be actually a global market for home care segment as well. Thank you.
Hello, this is Dr. Sandeep Bharat. I'm head of R&D at Godrej Industries Limited Chemicals. The topic of my today's talk is Atmanirbhar Bharat, role of R&D. In this, I will be talking on what are the needs and pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the research and development scenario in India as well as global, and then what are the issues and options in MSME and large corporates in India, which are the part of chemical industries in India, and what could be the way forward. We know that COVID has impacted the world economies in a big way in the last 2 years. Just during the COVID, there was a big Suez Canal impasse, which has created major logistic problems all over the world. Still, we are getting affected by that. Then there was a Chinese border issue with India. I think all these problems were alert for our dependence on China for the supplies in the agrichemicals, in the pharma, in the specialties. And it was a sort of a wake-up call for world as well as for India. Our Prime Minister Modi grabbed this opportunity with his vocal for local and the appeal for Atmanirbhar or self-reliant Bharat. What is meant by Atmanirbhar? Basically, it is becoming as much self-reliant as possible without being isolated from the world, and then make India self-reliant by creating an ecosystem that will allow Indian companies to be highly competitive on the global stage. Let us see what are the 5 important pillars of Atmanirbhar India defined by PM Modi. The first and foremost is, of course, economy. It's not only the growth in terms of numbers, it is a socio-economic growth. Overall societal progress has to be ensured so that the bottommost elements of our society are involved and encouraged and improved during this progress in terms of their financial conditions, the health conditions, and overall living conditions. Second is the infrastructure. A good physical infrastructure we always look for. But then besides physical, there has to be a very good digital infra network, which is the necessity now after the COVID. It will be basically requiring also the better logistics, less pollution, and the investments in tier 1 cities, which will help us avoid the influx in the big cities and also the lopsided development. The third most is the technology or technically driven systems to create the products, processes, and services which are at par with the world based on the technological and engineering prowess of India, which could leverage the computing, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, the nanotechnology, expertise, whatever we have. The fourth is an important aspect from Indian point of view, is the vibrant demography. It is the important aspect why world is coming to India. We have a youthful, educated population. Basically, this population has to be educated for all the needs and culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. Basically, that's going to help in the Atmanirbhar. We have to channelize and employ the youth in progress and the nation building. Then the domestic demand. Okay, India is a huge country with a huge population. The youthful population, which has more disposable income now, more domestic demand has to be created as an internal market for the consumption of the goods which we produce. And I think this is going to give us the pull for the domestic manufacturing and then the make in India. So if you see, all these 5 pillars are supported in a way or other by developing the sustainability. Sustainability is in terms of the raw materials which you use, the technologies we use, and the environmental issues. So what is sustainability? If you see, it is nothing but going back to nature, going back to domestic, going back to local. So reproducible resources have to be used in terms of the raw materials for agricultural and all the industries wherever it is possible. We have to go for the natural feedstocks. We have to reduce the dependence on the petroleum resources. Local, domestic. We have to use the local or domestic technologies, resources, manpower, which will also help us in terms of the less transportation, less pollution, and less migration of the workforce. We have to use concentrates and blends wherever possible. This is more true for the home and personal care industry. Less polluting, biodegradable processes have to be employed. Improvements in crop yields and quality are very important for feeding the population. Water and space efficient farming practices we have to learn. I think hydroponics and aeroponics is picking in a big way now all over the India, especially during the COVID times. And you know, all these sustainability related points which I have mentioned, they need an innovative R&D effort for expanding in each of these virtues. Let us see what is the current R&D scenario. We saw that for Atmanirbhar India, innovations and R&D is important. So what is the current Indian scenario in terms of R&D? R&D spend in Indian chemical industry is typically 0 to 3% of the turnover, while the MNC average, which is 9 to 10%. The R&D spends majorly are done by the large corporates in petroleum and pharma. Very less is innovative and futuristic. I will say there could be always some exceptions. This could be also acceptable for the self-sufficiency of our population, but it cannot go continuously and have to go beyond this simplistic kind of research and development. We have a huge micro, small, medium enterprises sector, and MSME research spends in India are very, very meager. They are mainly immediate and operational requirement basis. So there is almost nil innovative or advanced research. Our R&D efforts are done mainly for the improvisation in existing processes or technologies or catching up with the world. For HPCI, it is more on application development, I will say. So generally, the industry is investing in R&D only on the quick return basis or ROI basis. If you see the numbers further, more than 150 international companies are doing R&D in India. They are setting up their global innovation centers to tap India's low-cost English-speaking engineering and technical manpower. However, Indian R&D spending, if you see, is very, very low at less than 1% of GDP. Indian corporates typically are not invested in the R&D activities in the needed proportions. We basically continue to buy our major technologies, complicated technologies, or license it from other countries in many important sectors. So if you see, our R&D spending is very, very low. It's so low by global standard that it holds back India's economical, technological, and strategic ambitions in long term. In a way, if you compare it with even our nearest neighbor, China, the difference and the gap is too big. If you see the global scorecard, this is from a report of EU Industrial R&D Investment 2019. The major 2,500 companies investing the largest sums in R&D in the world, which are based in 44 countries, at a total investment of 824 billion euros. So it is approximately 90% of the world's total business funded R&Ds. Out of these, almost 85% are in the advanced countries or advanced regions. 550 are in the EU region, 770 are in US, 318 in Japanese, and 507 in China. So only remaining 15% is in the rest of the world. Also, there could be some better developed countries than India. So if you see, our contribution to these major R&D investments in chemical is very low. In 2018, China came in the top 20 nations of these R&D investments. And I think definitely you can see this Chinese innovation investment in even other sectors. So it was the only middle income country to make in the top 20s. If you see India, MSME is a major sector in India, unorganized small factories of chemicals. So MSME has to be included and encouraged for making Atmanirbhar a real success. What is the situation in this MSME? If you see, the major processes are the small batch processes. The plants are multipurpose plants. These processes are based mainly on the experience of persons working or some consultants. Basically, the designs are not great, okay? They are just sufficient to make the things. They are copied from somewhere or tweaked many times, the process-wise. And therefore, there are a lot of energy-related inefficiencies. So heat transfer studies are not generally done in a great way to see any kind of energy inefficiencies. So overall, they lead to inefficiencies, pollution, as well as unsafe operations. We can see a lot of accidents in these small chemical industries. What could be done is basically we can do the improvement in operational efficiencies. We can try to see how the pollution could be reduced in this. Better process options could be checked so that old technologies have to be replaced, old equipment have to be replaced. And we can mainly give the attention to the safer operations by various ways. Even the energy wastage has to be reduced. We could incentivize this energy wastage. So I think all this needs basically a lot of efforts, even by these MSMEs, in terms of doing some sort of a research. Okay, it may not be innovative research or long-term research. So these industries don't have their own R&Ds, and they don't know how and where to go for this. So what could be the way forward to overcome this? So we could think of the research and development hubs in such areas where these small or medium scale industries are located, different MIDCs, different industrial zones. So these centralized consortia of research facilities could be set in different industrial areas. These centralized facilities could be hired based on the need of particular small industry, and they could help us in development or analytical work for different periods of time. They could be hired for 1 month, 2 months, or something like that. Basically, the local universities and college resources also could be utilized for setting up these facilities to control the costing. And then the faculty of those colleges or academic institutions and interested students could be utilized for the practical, experimental part or consultation part. And then the surrounding industry could be sensitized for these available resources. They could be encouraged to use these resources, and we can overcome the problems which are mentioned in my earlier slide. Considering the large scale corporates, they have their own resources. Financially, they could invest in their own R&Ds, okay? But still what we see in this majorly is the overseas or the tweak technologies. The capex cost and ROI is still given the major importance. Depreciated plants are many times refurbished and utilized. And then majorly our industry thinks one step further than the current, or they plan for immediate future. Instead, they have to see for the long-term perspective and the strategies. So what could be done is that we should try to be at par with the world and futuristic in all aspects of processes and manufacturing, rather than thinking of 1 year ahead or 2 years ahead. There could be long-term, medium-term, and short-term thought process which could be developed for different kind of research efforts. So for long-term, we can think of some innovative efforts. Sustainable technologies and processes how to be implemented. They are going to be the future. And from my personal experience, I can tell that they are going to give very good returns also. Besides profits, the community and environment aspects have to be given weightage by large corporates while working on these processes. Otherwise, as faced by China one time, they had to stop the polluting and non-efficient industry and go back to the design stages. So we have to take care right from now. How we can go ahead for the big corporates? There could be two-way path. One is the long-term fundamental research with long-term value creation has to be thought and done. Then short-term applied and feasible research projects with faster returns to be planned. The short-term means improvements in existing processes or systems, which will give us a better yield and efficacy. Those consultation hubs, which I mentioned earlier, could be utilized for doing this. They could be taken help from. Then innovative ideas to leverage individual and local strengths have to be also done, which is a part of a sustainability, as I said. In terms of long-term efforts, development of alternates using abundant local nature resources, so helping to reduce the dependence and becoming sustainable. We have to definitely reduce the dependence on the petroleum resources in long term, which will help us reducing our imports also. The non-conventional sources, less polluting sources, bioprocesses and bioproducts are definitely going to be the future, and we have to start investing in a big way in this. Bioprocesses and bioproducts definitely are going to be the future. I can, of course, share at the end my experience on this. Then innovative ideas and out-of-box thinking has to be encouraged by all the big corporates and then in their R&Ds. As I said, at Godrej, definitely we have started working on this for last 5 years at least, as I know. We are following this strategy, what we call as GEM, okay? As green as possible, economical and efficient, multifunctional and milder. At least in our industry, okay, where the base is oleochemicals, we could really generate so many options which are greener, economical, efficient, and multifunctional. Okay, we could use one raw material for many applications or one finished product for many applications. So we are definitely working in home and personal care, animal nutrition, the metalworking fluids, and petroleum, and so on. Okay, I think, for example, I will cite the product which currently is in the market, Magic. So instead of those regular hand washes, okay, which are sold at 40 rupees as a refill in the plastic bag, we produced this Magic, which is a powder which is costing 15 rupees, a small sachet, and it is made into 200 liter of hand wash. So this was a safer, milder solution which we created at a lower cost. Okay, it is almost 1/3 of the regular hand wash refill cost. So I think this kind of disruptions every industry has to bring. Other is this Genofos CD, okay, which we have patented now globally as a optional or as an anti-dandruff agent, which is a green, and definitely it's going to be a great option for the zinc pyrithione, which is used largely till now but getting phased out slowly. So this is based on our green development, okay, the part of our green development. Similarly, this GenoClean CA, it's an anti-acne green alternate which we have produced. And not only that, we are trying to use these ingredients in simpler applications. Okay, every time you don't have to create the lotions and creams for applying these kind or shampoos. Okay, you can see if you could use this in your day-to-day end uses basically. So I think shortly our things will be in the market now. Already we have patented these ideas. BioGod is a green surfactant which we have produced Okay, our plant will be on stream from January. It is a sophrolipid, and very big corporations worldwide are coming in this sophrolipid. And I'm happy to share that Godrej will be the first in India, and we have almost spent last 5 years on this development in terms of the processes, the piloting, and everything. So this BioGod is so multifunctional and so good a product. We are trying to use it in parallel applications like pharma, food, feed, apart from our regular home and personal care. So I think there is a big array of ingredients similar to BioGod, okay? So which could help us giving the end products like bioplastics, the biolubes, the biopharma, okay? Oleo base, which was earlier, we never thought that will give us a big range of product, could do it generally because of our R&D thrust. So we are similarly working on many such products, many such applications using the same base. And so this GEM is definitely paying off now after 4 to 5 years. So basically, if you see what are the takeaways for the R&D efforts, if you want to really make India or Bharat as Atmanirbhar, every corporation has to decide to go for innovation, maybe a small corporation or big corporation. And it could be done in each aspect of business to make the things more greener, reduce the waste, reduce the transport, reduce the pollution. So each corporate or medium size or large size, they have to decide for long-term and short-term requirements from R&D. Accordingly, they can employ the resources. So creating and leveraging a network of academic and research institutes. I think this is very important, you know. So when we started our advanced kind of R&D, we didn't have, say, all the resources of our own. So we started taking help from these academic institutes, a lot of CSIR laboratories like NCL or IIPs, ICTs. So I think, so it didn't stop us from proceeding that we didn't have enough resources. I think we have to have resourceful people and then innovative and out-of-box thinking. So that helped us also on our thrust on the sustainable technologies in terms of feedstock supply and availability. We also use these sustainable technologies in a big way in our energy requirements. Okay, and I think the initial investment was quite good, but then the return on investments are less than 3 years. I think so. Definitely, the big corporates have to think in this direction. We always also pushed for the manufacturing processes which are local and domestic materials. We also try to use domestic resources wherever possible. So it helped us during the COVID times to improve our business, to sustain well financially, because we were less restricted by the logistical problems. Similarly, we know that the chemical processes cannot be eliminated fully for long times to come, but we can definitely reduce the effect of all the chemicals or whatever ingredients we are using on the environment and on the humankind. We can make our products and processes as GEM as possible, green, efficient, and milder or multifunctional. We also have to think all the time the water efficient processes. The problems of pollution, which were giving us a lot of trouble in some of our operations, definitely helped us to push our effort to go for the zero discharge. Okay, and I think that has improved our water usages more than 50%. So for big corporates, it's a very big volume, and I think everybody definitely has to try it. So to come towards the end, I will just state the two statements of Jeff Bezos. He says that his company's growth and innovation is built on its failures. Experiments are by their very nature prone to failure, but few big successes compensate for dozens and dozens of things that did not work. I think we have to be fearless in going for innovation, because innovations will succeed very rarely, but whenever they will succeed, they will give you the path-breaking financial performance, path-breaking happiness, path-breaking success, and it will bring really a big help for becoming or making India Atmanirbhar. So for Atmanirbhar India, the R&D efforts are definitely the most important efforts, and I think everybody, small, micro, small, medium, or the large corporates, have to go for the innovation. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to make my presentation on importance of BIS certification of standards for home and personal care ingredients. My name is Rakesh Trivedi. I am professor at Harcourt Butler Technical University, Kanpur, and I also chair CSG 25 soaps and other suspects sectional committee of Bureau of Indian Standards Government of India. In fact, standardization in India and role of BIS, which I will just elaborate in this slide. BIS is the national standard body, and standardization activity in India started with the establishment of Indian Standard Institution (ISI) way back in 1947. And Bureau of Indian Standard (BIS) took over work of ISC through enactment of BIS Act of 1986 by Indian Parliament. The objective of BIS are harmonious development of activities of standardization, making and quality certification. So it's standardization, making as well as quality certification. To provide new thrust to standardization and quality control, to evolve a national strategy for according recognition to standards and integrating them with growth and development of industrial production and exports also. The ecosystem for national standards work on the feedback from BIS. Definitely, we call it NSB, the Standard Board, and then there are role of SDOs, which are kind of NGOs working in the area of consumer awareness. Then there are regulators such as for food, we have FSI. Similarly, there are other regulators also of different industries. And then there are private standards and industries. So we work closely with all stakeholders, and that's how we work. Can standards make the difference? Yes. What if? You can make your business more efficient, improve quality, win new customers, boost all important bottom lines. Standards can do all of these, especially standards are simply applying, try, and tested best practices to your business, created by experts who have the trusted knowledge that is needed to develop best practices. Standards provide a practical framework to examine, review, and continuously improve any area of business. It's not only a fixed one, continuously improve, and they are periodically reviewed also. So that's one dynamic process we have for the standardization. Impact of standardization as such, standardization can be felt around the globe as they affect world trade. They also ensure public safety and drive market development. In fact, similar to our national standard BIS, there is a body known as ISO. They are also monitor and do several things. It's an international standard organization, and India is one of the major members of that organizations, and we get ISO development. North America, European Union. So it's a global things which our BIS standardization work does. Benefits of standardization for industry, because mainly focus standards are made for industry. Rationalization of process of manufacture. This is very important that not only the product, but rationalization of the process itself of the manufacturer, improved control over processes, materials, and manpower. So it's a process, materials, as well as manpower. Elimination of waste. Why I'm saying manpower, there is the IS and there are management systems also in the BIS. So that's why manpower is included. Elimination of waste, this is very, very important. Material as well as effort of the mankind, people who are involved. So that is also elimination of waste. Higher rate of production, that is also aim of the when we formulate the standards. Reduction of inventories of stocks, both of raw materials and product. Reduction of manufacturing cost, ultimate increase and sales and hence profit. So it's a complete business things come when we talk about externalization, and that help industry to work developing that. All overall things can be improved. Externalization, 10 good things. Improve the quality of goods and services, cut cost and drive profitability. Third one is improve business processes, increase efficiency and measure performance. In fact, this is very important that we increase efficiency and measure performance of the business also. In totality, we does when we make standard. Give your business a competitive edge, and how the other competitors are your competitors are working, so that you have an idea. That's also most important thing during standardization. Help complete with bigger enterprises. Also, how the bigger enterprises are working, not only in India, globally also. We have an idea when we follow the standards. Enhance your credibility and secure customer confidence. Strengthen marketing field. Support export efforts. This is also that when you are exporting a product, you get credit. When your standards are such that they are recognized globally. So when you export, then also you get benefit of that, especially on the quality aspect. Open doors to new customers and strengthen existing business. So that is also when you have a standard process, standard product, you have an opportunity to get new customers and help comply with it. The most important thing that you are complying the regulation. That's very important. Law of the land is followed, and whatever regulators requirement. When you standardize your process and products are manufactured accordingly, you get that also advantage. In India, standards and deadlines are important issues, but standard application remains a problem. That's why I'm telling about Indian industry and Indian scenario. That there are standards and standardization work has been done, but application of those is still a problem. So, tendency to ignore unless forced. So, unless there is a force from the regulators, normally there is a culture to ignore. So that's an important problem. Reluctance to use mainly due to difficulties in application of the standards. That's one. They may not be having sufficient manpower, technical manpower, especially to follow the standards and produce according to standards, especially with the small manufacturers. Lack of understanding of benefits of the standards, sometimes they lack the benefits. Capability and capacity issues are also related to this. Lack of resources, that's also one important thing. They have resources for others, but for standardization, they lack the resources. Management preoccupation in routine work rather than standardization goals. Short-term view of business perspective, that is also there with the Indian industry, that they have short-term view of business. So lack of awareness, that's one. Assigning importance only to necessary. When I say that, they only work when there is necessary from the regulatory pressure. Trusting and obtaining the high standards. This is also that we follow whatever the right standards are there, whether they are upgraded. So those things are also there in the industry. Lack of observability capacity, implementation, and evaluation also, which they may not be having sufficient manpower to specifically look on the implementation and evaluation of the standards. Barrier to involvement. Normally, it's top management who are involved. So, lower staff is not involved, then also you have problems to implement. And understanding of benefits is not by all the stakeholders. Another very important thing is that assessing standards, how standards are, that assessment is not, we don't have the facility, especially with the small scale sectors. And how the standards should be used also. It's not only conformity to standards, but mostly we talk about the complete process itself. Providing feedback on the standards also, Indian industry is not having feedback mechanism on the standards. They produce product and how they are good. That normally they don't have a systematic feedback mechanism. So that's also they are not standards. They may not be interested sometimes. Influencing development. Sometimes there is also tendency that they want to influence the development of standards with the when it is developed and they want to try to extend it, influence according to their convenience. So that's key challenges the standards body and possible solution. What at European institutions we feel that understand benefits. We must work, and that's the purpose of this presentation also, that we are trying to increase awareness among industries for standards and standardization process itself, the benefits. We are trying to make them aware, improve existing communications, whatever the communications are there, and it should be improved. And we try to communicate with the stakeholders, especially the manufacturers and industries, so that they have better understanding of the standards. Provide better access to standards also, such process to track the standards. Inform about new standards. We have a website on these standards and European standards, where people can have access to standards in specific sectors and even on ingredients, different products. A lot of information is available, and real standards are also can be accessed through net. Key challenges to standard body again and possible solutions. What we tried: easier use of standard, able to implement standards effectively. That's also we try to monitor and have a feedback that how difficult the implementation, and we at the BIS level, we try to facilitate that how they can be implemented, and keeping in mind when standards are made, we also try to have in mind that how the smaller scale industry can implement, can produce product as per the standard procedure. Make understand the context of new and revised standards. We also try to revise when there is a possibility of having new raw materials, and because of innovation and other things, we try to include those changes which are happening globally. So that's why we try to update, at least the standards are revised and updated. That can be done when we receive even requests from the industry and other stakeholders. Improved feedback and standards. This is also, we encourage to get feedback to improve standards, and through website and through email and through your personal, people can write letters. So we try to get correct feedback, and we do a lot of surveys also from the stakeholders to get feedback on the standard implications, how they are implemented, how better they can be. Get involved in standard development process, and you know that all industry stakeholders are involved in development of the standard itself. Initially, how they can be developed to reflect SME needs also. Increase the awareness of the process of standardization, that also easier means of tracing project and mapping relevant stakeholders for each project. So when we try to develop new standard, we try to have the mapping of each stakeholders, the need of each stakeholders, they are mapped, and then properly, after getting their feedback, we try to go for the standards. Use of technology is one. Role of trade associations also, we try to get. The role of trade associations is very important, because really they are working in the field, and they are the real implementer of the standards. So that's how their feedback and their concerns are considered in the BIS standards development. And also we do a lot of impact assessment and resource constraints also where possible. We try to get that if they don't have resource, so how the modification and other things set and standards process itself. I will just briefly tell you how these standards are made. Stage 1, new work item proposal. Anybody can propose a new work. We call it NWIP, and that proposal can come from the consumers, can come from the stakeholders, beside consumers, industry, and association. Then stage 2 is a working draft. We prepare a working draft. And then stage 3 is a preliminary draft. We prepare a preliminary draft, and that preliminary draft is then circulated, wide circulation, all stakeholders, including the users. So we try to get feedback on the after wide circulation, and we finalize the draft after getting feedback from the stakeholders. So that's how it is done, and finally, in the stage 6, we get Indian standards. So we try to get consensus, and expert committee members are there who interact, and after that only standards are made. People involved, as I said, consumers, regulatory and other government departments, industry, and then scientists, technologists, even the testing organizations who are involved in quality assessment, they're also involved. And in our BIS committee, there is a proper representation of all these 6 things, and sometimes we involve non-governmental organizations also who work in the consumer interest area, so they are also involved in developing these standards. Normally, in India, there are areas, electrical equipments, construction, building materials, seed products, food products, agriculture equipment. We have household and personal care products also, one division where we try to develop standards. Mainly, they are focused on small scale. A number of industry associations, individual industries are involved in relevant committees. They are comprised of 20% of the strength of section committee so that they can have their own voice when we develop interest to the public at large. Considering a concern of SMEs while developing instances, cost-effective standard for SMEs, that's the focus. Performance-based approach versus prescriptive standards. It's only not the prescription that we prescribe a medicine kind of thing, but we try to have the performance when the product is really manufactured. So that's the one approach we have. Clear definition of the scope and standards and easy understanding. So we try to define the scope of the standards also very clearly. Avoid imposing costly and complex testing regimes. Normally, in developing a standard, we try to involve the easy testing methodology, and sometimes very expensive equipments are avoided testing the product, especially the quality assessment when we develop the standards. Structure and presentation of standards, allowing transition period. We allow transition period also, that when we go for mandatory application of the standards, so we allow transition period, as we have done recently, especially one important project and one important product of soaps and detergent, that is linear alkyl benzene, that was made mandatory last year in 2020, and we allowed some time before it came in existence. So it's land of law now, and everybody has to follow the mandatory one. I'll talk about that later. In advanced countries like Germany, Italy, France, and contribution of SMEs to GDP is more than 50%. In India, also around 40%, but participation in standardization activities is low. So we urge industries to come forward and try to help us in developing standards. Need for active participation of SMEs in standard development. Effort of increasing the participation of SMEs in standard development are to be made both at national and international level. Why I'm saying international level? Because we have seen in ISO committees also, there is a very little, I will say, participation of small scale industries. It's more mainly so. At international level also, we try to have and include the small scale sector. The possible solution just mentioned. A study on impact of standards and degree of implementation of standards. So impact assessment should be done, and participation of SMEs industry association can be ensured, because when we have representation of industry associations, they will not be of interest to individual industry. So that's a better way of participation. Now, I would like to say a few things about quality control order. In fact, that's the government of India has. Bureau of Indian Standards, the national standard body of India, is engaged in the activity of standardization, conformity assessment, and quality assurance of goods, articles, processes, system, and services. So it is the process, system, services, goods, and articles. They are all assessed for the quality and conformity. And the Indian standard, that is BIS, gives the product certification schemes, which provide third-party assurance of quality, safety, and reliability of product. So normally it is a third-party assessment. It's not the industry second party, and BIS as a regulatory body try to have assessment and then certification is given. So that's a very important thing which BIS does, and that we have been working on this last several years. Now, trust on mandatory certification. BI certification scheme is basically voluntary in nature. It's voluntary. However, for a number of products, compliance to Indian standard is made compulsory by the central government under various considerations, normally public interest, protection of human, animal or plant health, safety of environment, prevention of unfair trade practices, and national security. So these are issues when we try to make, especially the certification as a compulsory. For such product, the central government direct mandate is use of a standard mark under a license or certificate of conformity from BIS through issuance quality standard orders. And you know that recently, about 10 years back, it was done for maybe 7, 8 years back through FSSI Act that most of the food products are under compulsory scheme. It's mandatory for them to comply with the FSSI rule or BIS rule, whatever you say. So that for the food product, and but BIS as such does for a lot of products. We did, as I was telling you, legal relative regime in this country. Whatever legal has been managing, it's going to be basic raw material for making LAFSA. It is now a mandatory, comes under mandatory certification. Everybody has to comply with that. And this standard were implemented after consultation with the big industry as well as small scale industry also consumers at large. And we have decided even whatever products are sold in India, whether they come from import also. So whatever LAB is now marketed in India, it is under this compulsory or mandatory certificate. We have done for several other products also under this, whether they are home care and personal care. And recently we are considering also, especially due to COVID, also several products are now being removed, whether they should be considered as compulsory certification, because health issues are important, especially floor cleaners. There are certain others because they are again related to health issues. So we are considering to come under mandatory certification, and especially the in personal care also, some of the products are being considered because of health, general health region of the public at large. Conformity to Indian standards and compulsory use of standard mark, as I said, that this scheme of conformity assessment regulation 2018 as notified in the order. So it is the latest was done in 2018, and several products are being considered for that. Role of BIS is only QCOs is that for the purpose of facilitating the central government in issuance of QCO. BIS regulatory interact with the line ministries, departments, and provide technical inputs related to Indian standard, appropriate conformity assessment scheme, and also practices in stakeholders consultation meeting. You might be knowing that recently government of Delhi has implemented for non-detergent that they cannot market any product which is not BIS certified, because there were a lot of problems in the Yamuna River and other things you might be aware. So the different, even state government, they also demand that some of those things. So Government of India Act as per the BIS provisions and try to do certification sometimes. So that those detergent products are also vegan. And another very important that detergents are also responsible for environmental damage also, especially in the water bodies. So that's one reason that we continuously assess these needs, and it may come under compulsory regime later on. In fact, about 10 years back, a lot of assessment was done, and the assessment came for the use of phosphate builders. And now you are already knowing that phosphate builders are already phased out by industry itself. That's a good one, because people were trying to phase out from the government orders. So I'm very happy that industry is also very sensitive. And when they participate in these deliberations, they themselves come forward. Further, for implementation of provision of QCO, BIS act as a certificate authority and data licenses to manufacturers as per relevant conformity assessment scheme. BIS also acts as an enforcement authority for the product specified. So enforcement and the certification, both roles are discharged by BIS, and so they are different committees. I would like to say something about the public safety standards of the Republic of India. As I said, that public safety is again has become very important, and especially Bureau of Standard Act in '86 and RTI because of 2005. Several people and several citizens, organizations, they keep watch on the several environmental aspect and other things. So that's also public safety rules are made, and World Trade and World Peace, the legal documents are produced, and that's a lot of work is being done in India also, because we have a commitment to the international organizations. Reducing our environmental impact, that is most important thing, that climate change and environmental impact is major issues considered by several governments. Obviously, governments are very active on that. So when it comes to the government large and commitment of India is also there. So we have to work on that, and how we harness the latest science to manage environmental impact and improve health of the planet. That work is reflected now in standards also. So you will see in near future several standards will be implemented, especially on the environmental impacts and health of the planet, when we say, including challenges. Ingredient safety assessment, that's one work is also being done worldwide, and BIS is also very serious on that. It's not the only final product, but how what kind of ingredients are used. So their safety assessment has become very important, because you know that several products and several ingredients are used. I would say thousands of ingredients are used in home and personal care especially. And sometimes people have their own patented information, and those are not disclosed. But nowadays, people have to disclose at least the effect on the human health. That's what I say. The exposure you might get from a new ingredients in beauty cream is different. It's not the ingredients, how the ingredients are applied. For a beauty cream, it may be different. But when you use as a food item, it's ice cream. When you make cream for edible products, Ingredients may be the same, but definitely the impact are different. So those are issues which are considered. Ingredient safety assessment has become important that all products are safe for consumers to use. We have to ensure, and several standards are being considered, and they will be available, I think, in next few years. I would like to discuss one very important thing, that is the evolution of our life cycle approach, and that has been since 1980s. And we have been working globally on this issue. Earlier, life cycle assessment only was for the products, but now things have changed. In 90s, we expected this capability to export and publish an overall business life cycle assessment. In 2000, we continued to develop our approach and assessment through our development of our brand in tools. In 2010, we focused on pioneering footprinting and methodology to support implementation of several things, especially this slide is representing the Unilever, what they did in that area. And now in 2020, implemented several things, especially on the footprints and how much it covers the diversity and ecosystem services approach. So it's the sustainability assessment, and that's how you might be knowing that every company has to submit a sustainability assessment based on the planetary boundary concept. So there are certain things which are happening now. Environmental safety has become very important, and those tools for assessment are being followed. Another trend which is happening globally after the COVID is that in the product as well as in process, I will say that people are going, especially on HPC industry, for my personal care, that whatever ingredients are being used, they should be close to nature and safe to environment. So natural ingredients are preferred. They may be a plant, animal, or mineral or microbial field ingredients derived from nature, present in or produced by nature, produced using minimal physical processing. There should be minimal processing. So that's the trend now. And simple chemical reaction resulting or through biological process. So these are some of the natural ingredients are grown, harvested, raised, and processed in ecological manner. So they are very safe, considered, not produced synthetically. This is also happening now, and there is an industry view also that whatever products are consumed by HPC industry is that they should not be synthetic, and they should be free from petrochemical sources because they are not biodegradable. So that's also a trend now happening. Natural ingredients and natural solvents, how even water and all those things, how they can be. And another thing, GMO, genetically modified organisms, are also not considered safe, but it's still being used, but there is a lot of debate on that. So that's one, not containing synthetic and not containing chemical preservatives. If you are going to use preservative, there should be natural one, and natural coloring matters or flowering materials, artificial should be avoided. So that's the trend, and these are not part of the standards now, but I think in future they will be part of the standards, and there is awareness in the industry, consumers worldwide, and because of consumer needs and consumer expectation, industry has to go for these considerations, and I'm sure that we will be able to make standards having these products. So Quality control is a part of quality assurance. We have to assure the quality by all means. That's the project, and that's what BIS is also working. And every industry has to assure the quality as per this standard formulations. That's how I just wanted to say a few words on that. If any query is there, I am ready to reply or communicate. If it comes to communication, I'm ready to reply that and present my views. Thank you very much for giving this time. Thank you.
A warm welcome to everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to address this august audience. For the next 10 to 15 minutes, let me take this opportunity to address you all on what has been our learnings through the pandemic and also some of the experiences that probably would be of use to all of us. As a disclaimer, let me first pray that this pandemic does not recur again. It's been a global pandemic and one that we've never seen before, and I hope that we never get to see again as well. The pandemic over the last, if I were to say 18 months to 20 months, has really put the industry out of gear. Be it in supply chain, be it logistics, be it manufacturing, be it in the front end with consumer demand, different industries have gone through very different experiences, and FMCG in particular has gone through a sort of a mixed experience, I would say. Whether it's Kevin Care, whether it is a lot of other colleagues of ours, other peer companies of ours, we've had a very mixed bag over the last 18 to 20 months. On the demand side, we've had issues around many categories, many impulsive categories or impulse-driven categories. On the other hand, some of the categories like essentials, particularly home care, personal care, have definitely seen some amount of demand generation. But at an overall level, it's been a very mixed bag for the industry. And thankfully, the industry is sort of bouncing back now as we believe the pandemic seems to be receding. And we look forward that we don't get back a wave like this again. As we look back, there's been a lot of learnings that we've had. While we've had our struggles and while we pray that this pandemic does not happen again, we've definitely seen a lot of different companies, a lot of different organizations adapt to this challenge in much, much different ways. And I think that is something that's an interesting episode that probably all of us could learn from. One big learning that we picked up, and I think I would see these learnings as two parts. One, from an organization perspective, many of us here run organizations, small, big, medium. And I think those learnings, I think, are relevant to all of us as we run organizations at large. The other part of it would be very specific to the supply chain part of the vertical, something that's very interesting to this group. I think that I'll pick it up as I move. From an organization perspective, I personally have picked up a lot of learnings when I go across the country, when I talk to a lot of my peers. A few learnings that we picked up. One thing is, it is always better to have a plan B. While a lot of things were planned, the last 18 months have completely put our plans out of gear. And a lot of industries, a lot of categories have had to repivot themselves, rethink their strategies, go to market, so that one, they're able to float, and two, they're able to come out of this challenge. And many companies have done that reasonably successful. And I think the core to that is, my biggest learning is have a plan B. The pandemic in particular was all of a sudden, if you were to look at it. But then I think what necessitated the entire challenge to be averted was a plan B. We had to have a plan B, and that plan B needs to be executed. And I think that's something that across the industry, we've seen a lot of organizations raise up to the challenge. The second big learning that we had, never take things for granted. whatever we thought was normal today is getting challenged, partly because of the pandemic, partly because of the learnings the pandemic has been able to give us. I've seen a lot of industries where the acceleration to digitization, the acceleration to automation has actually happened post the pandemic much faster. We could take even Kevin Care as an example. While we've been on to digitization and automation, particularly on the supply chain side and in the sales front end side, we've used this opportunity during the pandemic to be able to accelerate this because that was the only way to stay connected. A lot of people were not able to go to the front end. We may not be in offices, we may not be in the front end at the stores, but then the only way to actually drive business was to be stay connected through the digital world. And thanks to the good connective network that we had across the country, we have been able to sort of ramp up our operations. So digitization and automation has been a sort of an unplanned outcome that has happened during this pandemic. So in a way, automation and digitization are actually defining the new normal, which also means that some of our assumptions earlier on productivity have actually been sort of re-questioned today. Productivity today has a new normal, and that is being driven by digitization and automation in my view. The third big learning that we picked up is, at the end of the day, the business is all about people, right? Whether you see it as customers, whether we see it as stakeholders, whether we see it as employees, I think at the end of the day, the business is all about people, and the pandemic has once again proved that if you had a set of people who own your business, if you had a set of people who are energetic, any challenge is surmountable. And that is what we saw with the pandemic. Many companies have been able to come out of this pandemic reasonably well. I wouldn't say that we've not had a fair share of losses or a fair share of struggles, but I think the way we've been able to come out of this pandemic is primarily because of the way the people have been able to raise up to the occasion. And I think the third big learning that we picked up is people are most important to the organization. And I think that is time and again getting proved with the pandemic. So three big learnings that I picked up. One, have a plan B. Irrespective of the challenge, plan B is an important emerging scenario in a world which we call as VUCA today. And therefore, plan B is an important aspect of business. Second is people. People are the most important element of business, and I think that continues to get re-emphasized again and again. And third is new normals are getting created. I think it's important for us to understand that new normals are getting created, and hence don't take things for granted. Always question the base, question the basic, and probably whether pandemic or no pandemic, any new challenges that emerge, I think as organizations, we would be able to keep continuously growing much faster. When I look at the supply chain side, we've had a lot of struggle. I think the struggle continues to happen. While things are becoming much, much sharper now, we've had a challenge in terms of our last mile connectivity. We've had challenges around transportation, particularly on the export side. We continue to have challenges on the supply side and the demand side as well, with containers and with the corridors being a little more tighter. I think exports continues to see a little bit of struggle as we look at. When you look at the supply side of it, we've seen challenges around materials. Initially, we saw challenges around availability of material, and over a period of time, I think availability has sort of been streamlined. But today again, we see that there are challenges coming in, and that continues to be a big problem as we look at it. Again, on the supply chain side, I think there are a few learnings that we have picked up. One big learning that we picked up, and I think it is just not a learning but a trend that is emerging, is a lot of dependency on a few set of vendors or a few set of suppliers is actually creating a sort of a challenge when it comes to a global pandemic like this. And I think in the past, we've never anticipated a challenge like this, and therefore probably one of our earlier strategies of saying consolidate in one place probably gets questioned in the wake of a pandemic like this. And we've seen this happen on the supply chain side. And my belief is, as an industry, as a country, probably at a global level, one big trend that probably will happen is a lot more opportunities will become more localized. A lot more manufacturing opportunities will get localized, and that's a big trend that I'm seeing from a supply chain perspective. And many countries are emphasizing this as a big strategy. And I'm sure that go local is a big mantra that is emerging. It was in the works, but I think, again, the pandemic has actually accelerated this process. So go local is one big trend that I see emerging out. The second trend that I see emerging out is sustainability. With all this happening around, one big trend, which probably is out of focus right now, but I'm sure is going to come back again as things settle down, is sustainability. Sustaining this globe, sustaining the planet is actually a big agenda that over a long-term period is something that we will not be able to escape. And hence, therefore, I think on the supply chain side, as we keep moving, one of the other big trends that I see is sustainable options from both raw material perspective and packing material perspective. And therefore, sustainable products and brands as we move forward. This trend again is getting accelerated as the pandemic has struck us, and people have become more aware of what possibilities can happen. And therefore, I think a very slow but steady movement of people moving towards sustainable options is emerging out much faster than before. I see these as two big trends that are emerging on the supply chain side. The challenges continue, whether it is on the exports, as I said, or whether it is on availability today. And hence, therefore, one of the outcomes of this probably is going to be innovation, in my mind. And innovation always gets born when there is a challenge or when there is a struggle for a solution. And I believe this industry is going through a phase where probably innovation is going to be far more emphasized upon. That's the third trend that I'm seeing. The need for innovation, the need for accelerated innovation. So in a way, I wouldn't be surprised when all of us probably a couple of years down the line meet again, we would probably look at some of these trends being even more stronger. Going local, sustainable options, and innovation at the core of the industry again. So at an overall level, I do believe that the industry at large, the countries at large have emerged much stronger post the pandemic in terms of learnings. And again, as I said earlier, we wish that this does not happen again. But I think one of the silver linings of this whole struggle that we've had over the last 2 years is probably some of these learnings that we can pick up collectively. I look forward to a lot more discussions during these sessions. And once again, thanks a lot for this opportunity to share my views with you, and look forward to further interactions. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Renuka Thirgaonkar, and today I'll be discussing about newer ways of doing business in the changing market. So if we look at today, especially when we are talking about the post-COVID era, we have seen that in 2018-19 in India, what happened was the household cleaning industries was growing with an annual growth rate of 1.5%. And that was specifically during 2018-19. Even the global sanitizer market, if we all see, it was rated at $2.7 billion in 2019. And but as per Nelson report, the hand sanitizer market in 2018 was hardly at 5%. And that time, if we will see the market that time, we had rising adult generation living in tier 1 and tier 2 cities who were seen as the main target for consumer growth for the home care products. And people that time were marketing more about, they were talking about the cost of the products, the home care products, and the main claims that were happening that time were all about the antimicrobial claims, the stain removal, cost effectiveness, as well as lot of foam was what all that was being advertised. And that's how, but at that same time, the online sale was also growing. And if we look at the online sale, we saw that though it was online sale, but the home care market had hardly penetrated the online sale, and it was the home care market especially. And it was only the cosmetic products which was just started being sold through the online platform. And then came the COVID. So what happened was, after COVID, suddenly during the COVID time, the consumers got a lot of time to think over and their demands, and the way of living suddenly changed, and consumer became conscious about product with right. They were very conscious about their lifestyle. They were conscious about well-being. They suddenly started taking lot of interest in their health and the product they were using at home, and the whole demand about the product. Suddenly they started talking about 360-degree healthcare, health and hygiene emphasis, as well as nourishing properties. So rather than nourishing, it was more about the caring aspect, which was related to the word nourishing. So, but whatever the products were, everything revolved around the wellness. And that's how the wellness concept came. And this random shift in the demand led to a shift in the home care market also. And the home care market suddenly got a big boost. So as per the report in 2019, it was the US dollar $173.32 billion was the complete home care product market, and it was projected to reach up to $233.58 billion by 2026. So you can see the pace at which it is growing, which is a very good pace of 4.58. And surface cleaning products started emerging in the market with an expected growth to cross 1,700 crores by 2025. So this is quite a big leap. And actually we could see that the post-COVID, the laundry cleaning products, there was a 20% growth which was seen there. And most of these products revolved around antibacterial cleaners, or even which grows growed at a very fast rate of 4.8%. The Indian home healthcare market size also was established to 6.2 billion in 2020. And after the COVID, it was seen that consumers' emotional engagement with their product was growing, and that was because the pandemic was started turning cleaning brands into lifestyle brands. And suddenly the whole space of these home care products have suddenly changed. And this has led to why this has changed, because consumers have started thinking about whether it is clean versus disinfected, should clothing be removed and laundered immediately when returning from a run or only after shopping trip. These type of questions started emerging in the mind of people. And that's why they started even thinking, is my laundry harming the environment? Because people got a lot of time to think over these aspects. And they started talking about claims like efficacy of the home care products, efficacy of the laundry detergents, efficacy of the cleaning surface cleaning sprays. And the usage of these products became the most major emphasis of that. After how they use it, what is the time duration in which they are using, and after usage, when it goes into the drainage aspect or once it goes into the environment, what is its footprint on the environment? And that's why the major claims that were being proposed by companies throughout the globe have been biodegradable, sustainable, cleaning, and germ kill. So these were the most emphasized words in all the claims that were happening throughout the world, and for those specifically for home care products. And the reason was because the home care products got a very good, from the cleaning brands, they became the lifestyle category products. And that is the whole reason for this changing scenario. So the efficacy claims that were happening were the advertising claims like protect yourself from coronavirus, 24-hour protection from the disease caused by germs, or removes 99% germs from the clothes. So it was these type of claims started coming over. And because consumers were more, after COVID, consumers are more emphasizing about protection, about germ kill. And this all would consider the effect of product. So actually these type of claims started coming over because the demand of consumer changed. So this consumer demand and the changing customers has a very good impact on business. And what happened is, with these changing demands, suddenly the Asia Pacific countries' brands started innovating in terms of new marketing strategies and product design for home and personal care sector. And India is being considered as a new contract manufacturing hub. So more functionality, innovation, with brands facing more pressure to convey safety, longevity, and product efficacy, as well as newer ways of doing business. And this all happened because of the changing customer needs. And with that, the reduction of import also has led to increased opportunities for the Indian raw material and packaging industry. So actually the COVID, in a way, we can say that has bring a lot of change in the market, as well as has given a lot of potential to the home care and personal care brands in growth. And so it has opened new doors for the industry. So for these new doors, generally there are a lot of new companies who have started coming in. But with the new companies, there are new licensing regulations also. So most of the companies who are coming up with the brands have to see that there are licenses that have to be required for starting these brands. So there are a variety of home care products available in the market, which can be categorized as below for approval and licenses that you need to obtain under the Drug and Cosmetic Act. So there are certain products for which you do not require the drug manufacturing licenses, whereas there are other products which requires the drug manufacturing licenses. So specifically product like floor cleaner, glass cleaner, bathroom tile cleaners, dishwashers, cleaning shampoo for, so like car cleaning shampoos. I'm not talking about the hair care product, but this is more about the car cleaning or the surface cleaning shampoos which have come up into the market. And for that, we do not require the drug manufacturing license, whereas there are certain products which require the drug manufacturing license. That is, those are like disinfectants, black and white phenyl, toilet cleaners for killing germs, floor cleaners for killing germs, and sanitizers. So these are the home care products for which you require a drug manufacturing license. Similarly, a cosmetic manufacturing license is required for hand wash. So why this is specifically? Because today, with the kind of claims and the consumer demands, a lot of companies who are coming in have to realize that there are categories for which you require certain permissions. Because during the COVID pandemic, we saw any and every company making sanitizers without even licenses, because that was the time when the sanitizer market was suddenly, the licensing was suddenly loosened up. And still companies are going with, but there are these licenses which we have to consider. So while the other licenses, the list of licenses required for any new business which is coming up are the factory license for manufacturing setup in the notified industrial area, clearance, fire clearance, pollution clearance, municipal clearance, and if wherever there are drug manufacturing license required, we have the Form 25 and Form 24 for hand sanitizers, which have to be taken for if it is a cosmetic manufacturing license for hand sanitizers, for hand washes. You have to fill the Form 32 or the 25D and the GST registration. So these are the basic licenses which are required for starting a new business or for creating the products. Other regulatory aspects to be considered are the claims that you are making for the brands, because with the newer market opening up, there are a lot of new claims which have come up. All these claims, like safe or biodegradable claims, or where you are claiming that these are removing antimicrobials or the microorganisms are being removed from the surface of the, like whatever, there were a lot of sprays which are coming, which are claiming to be antimicrobial sprays and all. So there, we cannot just make the claims like that. So claims can be made of removal of any virus. You can make a claim, but you need to have the substantiation data with it. So today, the whole near way of doing business is all about where you are talking about the technical aspect. When you are making claims, you have to show proof to your claims. So you can claim for any virus, but not COVID-19. Similarly, brands cannot make claim about destruction or removal of virus other than the virus which causes COVID-19 in their advertisements. Similarly, claims a substantiation of immunity against or treatment of any of coronavirus supported by either technical support, recognized or authorized, approved by health authorities. So if you have these type of substantiation claim or their reports for your claims, you can very well claim it. But if you don't have it, then you cannot claim that. So products which are not internally consumed or applied to bodies and does not need FDA license should be particularly conscious about making claims against prevention of immunity against or treatment of COVID-19, because post-COVID-19, this is a very important aspect which we have to keep in mind, especially if we are looking at the newer way of doing business in the post-COVID era. So today in the post-COVID era, fine, the old products are also there, but the new natural and eco-friendly home care products are the most in thing. So there are several brands who are talking about the natural products. They are talking, this is the most growing segment in metros and is looked upon to be the next big thing in the country as well as in the international market. So it is the future of home care market. So today all these products are naturally derived, non-toxic, biodegradable cleaning products that are made using sustainable manufacturing practices and made with certified natural ingredients. So we have the like eco-friendly, carbon and water neutral products, or 100% renewable energy made with zero waste, true platinum certified, and lot of such type of claim products are coming up into market, which are totally different. And these are very innovative products which have suddenly taken the form and taken a space in the home care segment. So manufacturing of the natural home care. So generally normal license which you are using for manufacturing of normal products, the same way we can manufacture these natural home care products as well. So you can take for the natural and the eco certified, all these products can be certified, and you can take these certifications from the private certifying bodies like Made Safe, EcoCert, BDIH, Cosmos, or any other. So in fact, EcoCert has if you will visit their website, you will see that they also have written that they have commitment to a more responsible home care industry, with especially the standard is dedicated to natural detergent or made with organic, and to home fragrance and natural or organic candles. So you can see if there is a separate dedicated space for the home care category. So in this new era, especially the post-COVID era, the more emphasis, the more people are going into these natural and EcoCert products. So claim substantiations done for biodegradability and other microbial claims. So wherever biodegradability is being happening, so there are testings to be done so that you can substantiate your claims. So that is what is happening in the manufacture of the natural home care product. So if you want to, you have to take the normal license, get your formula innovated, create these type of, and then go in for business. So generally in this new era, the newer way of doing business is by innovation. So use innovation to grow the home care business. Innovation is today the key to growing business. The reason is you have to bring something new into your business. So improving or replacing business processes to increase efficiency and productivity, or you can look at incorporating a new innovative way of utilizing your existing products in the market, or providing some extra innovative service, like you can create an app where the home care, your customers can refer which type of or how much dosage of the product is to be used. So there has to be new way of selling. Similarly, developing entirely new and different product or a service which will meet these rapidly changing consumer demands. Because today, if you will see, the consumers are changing very, very rapidly, and the companies have to find the new ways of business. So today, the new way of business is about innovation. So that is why we have to add value to existing products or services or markets to differentiate the business from the competitors and increase the perceived value of customers. So we have to see how we can increase the value of our product by what all attributes we can provide to our customers. So we have to put innovation as part of our business strategy. So the strategic vision is to be what is to be created, and the vision has to start with monitor the trends and then focus your innovative efforts. So if you will see the trend properly, because the trends are changing at a very faster pace. So you have to keep your horizons open, your eyes open, and then have a strategic vision for the same. So innovation will help you to not only thrive and drive the increased profits in the current changed market scenario, but will also help you understand the market in a better way. So study the market or industry trends, even build a relationship with your customers. So what you have to do is you have to see that the customer business relationship that you are developing, you have to be transparent in what you are putting on your labels, what you are talking about, and how you are interacting with the consumers. So you can have your web pages where you can communicate effectively with the consumers, as well as you can build a relationship or a rapport with them. So if you will see the various websites, this is the time for the home care brand to go through the e-market platform, talk to the consumers, and then go ahead and see that these are the product, whatever the innovative methods you are using for communicating about clean product, transparent product is well perceived by the consumers and they can take it. That's why innovation is the key to the new way of doing business. Similarly, as a company, we have to be ready for an economic down path beforehand and keep the innovative ways ready to tackle that. So if you have the innovative ways about how to tackle the economic down path beforehand, it will always help you being ahead of the other competitors, as well as never being short of the commercial aspect or funds, what we can say. So that's why considering the newer ways of how we take it, the new way of doing business today is about thinking out beyond the boundaries, keeping the innovation aspect very ready, come up with new products, come up with new ways of marketing, come up with new ways of communicating with the consumers, and that will really help in striving hard to keep the sales up whenever throughout your brand, whatever time the brand is into the market, it will help in keeping the sales higher. At the same time, be open to your consumers, talk to them, talk about your environmental efforts, the sustainability aspects, the efforts you are taking to keep the environment safe, how the products are building up. So how you are using the natural sustainable ingredients, and that will really add up everything to the new way of doing business. With this, I would like to thank everyone for providing me this opportunity to present my thoughts here. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. A very warm welcome to the committee members, fellow speakers, and the guest for the IHPCI conference. At the outset, I would like to thank the committee for giving us the opportunity to speak at this August gathering. I would like to first briefly introduce Sauradeep Chemical Industries Private Limited. We are a world-class specialty chemical manufacturer and exporter based out of Mumbai. We are a pioneer of green thinking since 1974. Our proprietary process involves zero discharge, zero wastage, and zero effluent in the manufacturing of green performance chemicals. We are working with global leaders in the paint and coating industry, textile industry, oil field chemical, home care and personal care industry, adhesives, industrial cleaning, and plastics. We have a very high-tech research laboratory with a manufacturing capacity of 50,000 tons per annum. We are a ISO 9001 certified, ISO 14001, and ISO 45001 certifications. Our products are halal certified, and we are basically into custom manufacturing as per requirements of our end users. Few of our achievements include Export Award from the Indian Specialty Chemical Manufacturers Association for the year 2014-15 and the year 2017-18. We have also been awarded Certificate of Excellence in Production Quality, Innovation and Management by the Institute of Economic Studies. We have also been awarded Best Supplier Award for Corporate Social Responsibility and Quality by Birla Group Company, Century Rayon. Our topic for today is green surfactants for the home and personal care industry. So I would like to take you briefly through what are green surfactants. They are made basically from renewable resources, which are biodegradable in nature and exhibit low toxicity. By definition, a green surfactant is one where the production protects the environment as well as the people who produce it. So our aim is we should not harm the environment and take care of the people and the planet together. Few of the application areas include laundry detergents, dishwash liquids, disinfectant floor cleaners, hand wash liquids, body wash, hair care, anti-aging cream, and acne skin cream. What are polyglucosides? Basically, it's a biodegradable ingredient derived from plant starch and fatty alcohol. They are free from 1,4-dioxane, which is a cancer-causing compound. They are biodegradable in nature, and basically they can be used as an alternative to traditionally used alcohol ethoxylates. It is gluten-free and can be used in fire equipments as foaming agents. Few of the properties of alkyl polyglucosides are eco-friendly, hypoallergenic, creates a smooth texture, lower surface tension, and a high level of stability across a wide pH range. What are green surfactants? Sustainable sourcing for home and personal care application is very essential as consumers' priority has shifted to natural and safe products for the planet. Sauradeep offers sugar-based surfactants and polyglycerol ethers and esters for the home and personal care industry with its Z3 technology that is zero discharge, zero wastage, and zero emission. Sauradeep has pledged not to conduct animal testing on either their products or ingredients which they used in the manufacturing. Alkyl polyglucosides are non-corrosive in nature. They are compatible with all kinds of surfactants and can be mixed with SLS, SLES, and other surfactants. They do not contain APE, phthalates, heavy metals, optical brighteners, or any other carcinogenic compounds. They do not contain reproductive toxins. They do not contain carcinogenic chemicals and do not contain any combustible products. Now I would like to share with you few of the green surfactants from Sauradeep for the home, personal care and the detergent industry. We have 3 products for the basket. First is Saurasurf 2061, which is a decyl glucoside to replace LAE7 and SLES or SLS with a solid content of 50 to 55%. Second is Saurasurf 6030, which is a blend of decyl and lauryl glucoside with a solid content of 70 to 73%. And the last is Saurawash 804, which is a concentrated liquid detergent, which is a blend of glucoside with a solid content of 50 to 60%. Let's begin with Saurasurf 2061. It is a decyl glucoside, which is pale yellow liquid with a solid content of 50 to 55%, with a viscosity of 1000 to 6000 CPS, and pH, which is close to 8 pH, which is more friendly to the skin. It is rapidly biodegradable, very good detergency and wetting properties, produces a moderate to a stable foam, and it is non-irritating to the skin. It has wide applications such as bottle washing, glass cleaners, personal care products, shampoos, soaps, skin creams, lotions, detergents, etc. This is the appearance of Saurasurf 2061, which is pale yellow, clear liquid. And it is also remains clear at room temperature. The foam height of Saurasurf 2061, initially 1% solution in water, is around 230 ml when we take in a glass measuring cylinder. Initial height was 100 ml. After 5 minutes, the foam height reduces to 220 ml. And after 30 minutes, it reduces to 120 ml. Still, it has substantial foam and can be used in multiple applications. We have also demonstrated its use in a disinfectant cleaner, such as a combination with benzyl conium chloride. Traditionally, people have been using BKC with lauryl alcohol ethoxylate 7 mol. We have replaced Saurasurf 2061 instead of lauryl alcohol ethoxylate 7 mol at the same dosages, and we have found excellent results and a very good foam stability as well as shown in the picture. We have then formulated a facial cleanser with Saurasurf 2061 decyl glucoside. Again, it gives very good lather as shown in the film. Next is we developed a conditioning shampoo with a mixture of decyl and cocoa glucoside, and we found excellent results at our customers' end. We also developed a shower gel with a combination of decyl and cocoa glucoside, and the customer was very happy with the performance. Saurasurf 6030, this is the next product. It is a blend of decyl and lauryl glucoside. It is appearance yellowish liquid with a solid content of 70 plus or minus 3%. It has a pH of around 9 and the viscosity is minimum 3000 centipoise. Again, it is rapidly biodegradable, very good detergency, produces a moderate to a stable foam and non-irritating to the skin. It has various applications such as shampoos, detergents, soaps, skin creams, bottle washing, glass cleaners. Can be used against SLES 70% as a sulfate-free product globally, a lot of consumers have now accepting sulfate-free products for their personal care and home care industry. So it has a very good potential. Saurasurf 6030, the appearance of the product, again, it is clear at room temperature, yellowish liquid. This is a fomite of Saurasurf 6030. The initial fomite is 170 ml. After 5 minutes, it reduces to 160 ml. And after 30 minutes, it's around 100 ml. We then develop a liquid active detergent, 20% approximately, based on 4 formulations. The first is the detergent is developed based completely on 100% SLES 70%. Second is we took a combination of SLES 70% and Saurasurf 6030 30%. The third column is SLES 50% and Saurasurf 6030 50%. And fourth, we replaced SLES 70% with Saurasurf 6030, the same quantity. These are the 4 samples. These are the appearances of how the liquid detergent looks by adding at various dosages. We then carried out the soil removal test for each of these 4 samples. And we found sample ATS252, which is based on SLES 70%. The soil removal efficiency is 52.7%. And ATS253, which is based on Saurasurf 6030. The soil removal test is 59.1%, which shows that it has a very good efficiency to eliminate the soil removal for Saurasurf 6030. These are the combination ATS254, wherein SLES is 70% and Saurasurf 6030 is 30%. The soil removal efficiency is 54.3%. And next is SLES 70%, 50%, and Saurasurf 6030, 50%. Here the average soil removal efficiency is 54.6. To summarize, the liquid detergent with SLES 70% has a soil removal test of 52.7, and the liquid detergent with Saurasurf 6030 has a soil removal test which is 59.1. The soil removal study is carried by the laundermeter with IS 4955. And the soil cloth uses 100% cotton equivalent. Liquid and the foam height for liquid detergent with Saurasurf 6030 is 240 ml, whereas the foam height for liquid detergent with SLES 70% is 270 ml. Conclusion: Saurasurf 6030 shows better soil removal capacity than SLES 70% liquid detergent. Last product, Saurawash 804, is a concentrated fabric detergent, which is a viscous liquid, minimum solid content of 50%. It has excellent cleaning of the fabric at room temperature, is sulfate free, very good detergency and wetting properties, produces very low foaming and rapidly biodegradable. Again, the customer can make 1:2 dilution with water to make eco wash, and the fabric detergent is ready. So it's a unique concentrated product where customer may be at any part of the world and he can use this product. Basically, we have tried to eliminate water, and transportation of water is avoided because water is available at any customer's factory. The foam height of liquid detergent manufactured with Saurawash 204, which is 200 ml, which is a reasonable good foam height. Conclusion: Sauradeep's green products can replace fossil-based surfactants with high performance and affordable pricing. To end, we would like to collaborate with our customers to create a clean future. Thank you very much for patient listening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tharun Suresh. I'm the Executive Director of Product Support at ECOF Industries. I'm primarily involved in research and market analysis for new and existing products that we have here in our business. This presentation is titled Turning to Nature, Sustainable Renewable Raw Material Solutions. I say solution here because what I'll be going through primarily will be sugar surfactants. And it is quite a dense topic, but I'll try my best to get through everything. And if there's any questions that anyone has, then they can feel free to email me, which the address will be at the end of the presentation. So I'll begin now. So the contents will be as follows. First, start with a little bit about sustainability in the home care sector and how it relates to our industry in particular. Then I'll just give a brief overview on COVID-19 issues and sustainability in a post-COVID world. I understand that we're still living in a COVID world, but hopefully this can give us some new insight into how we can operate in the future. Then I'll give a brief overview about sugar surfactants, a sustainable raw material solution for the primarily in detergents, but also in many other applications. And then I'll end with our vision at ECOF Industries and hopefully a collective goal that we can all follow for a more sustainable future. So the first section, sustainability in the home care sector. So sustainability in the industry, turning to nature, as is the title of the presentation, for more efficient and sustainable products has always been part of society's collective ideology. In India, we know the benefits of Ayurveda and yoga, which are now commonplace not only in India, but around the world. Our capability to implement natural solutions into our everyday lives is by no means a new venture. Neem and turmeric, for example, have become important ingredients in soaps and cosmetics. There is quite a distinguished history of sustainable production in India. The first known commercial surfactant introduced to the world was made with animal fats. Thanks to Godrej, animal fats were substituted with vegetable oil to create a more effective product. This not only made the product more sustainable, but also answered larger societal concerns of vegetarianism and nonviolence within the Indian diaspora. And to the right here, we have an original newspaper clipping or ad for Godrej's vegetable soap. And now I'll go on to some COVID-19 issues in regards to sustainability in the post-COVID world. In a brief overview of the current situation, today in the face of health crisis, the need for products to return to a more focused look on sustainability is more prevalent than ever. According to data collected by the Reserve Bank of India, consumer confidence has seen its lowest point in the last 10 years due to the COVID pandemic. And on the right here, I put in a graph from the Reserve Bank of India on consumer confidence indices. Towards the end, there is a bit of an uptick. I'm assuming that's because of lockdowns ending and as the world comes to grips with how we're dealing with the pandemic, but it's still at an all-time low. And now I'll begin about sugar surfactants. As I mentioned before, it is quite dense, but I will try my best to get through everything. So here we go. What are sugar surfactants, or APG, or otherwise known as alkyl polyglucosides? Sugar surfactants, or sugar-based surfactants rather, are derived from renewable raw materials. Sugar surfactants find application in industries such as agrochemicals and detergents. It is obtained from a combination of coconut, palm kernel, rapeseed oil, cornstarch, wheat or potatoes, and many other organic materials. When I say a combination of, it doesn't necessarily mean these ingredients, but one or many, or there are many other natural derivatives of sugar surfactants that we can find. And just a few material advantages of sugar surfactants. First, their hydrophobic and hydrophilic properties are naturally derived. By that I mean synthetically produced surfactants. You either have one or both being synthetically derived, or vice versa. The second point is there's no phase separation. I think that speaks for itself in terms of formulation and the advantages that it has. Third point is that it has a high product compatibility, and sugar surfactants can be used in a wide range of products in the home care industry, from laundry detergents and or in other industries for that matter, in biotechnology and etc. Fourth point is that it has a high electrolyte tolerance, greater tolerance for high electrolyte concentration, and more than any other non-ionic surfactant. It is extremely biodegradable. They are aerobically and anaerobically biodegradable, and they have extremely good product safety characteristics. And a little note on that is that it is 92 to 98% biodegradable. There's a lot of research out there out in the web, but you may look into biodegradability and biocompatibility advancements in synthetic surfactants, as cited below, if you want a more in-depth look at that point. And some other potential advantages of sugar surfactants are that they can be formulated to suit high concentration products, thereby reducing usage. Reduced usage leads to lower costing and concurrently to reduced freight costs, packaging costs, energy consumption, and all this ultimately leading to a greatly reduced carbon footprint. So there are great benefits all along the supply chain there, depending on how you integrate it into your product. As far as disadvantages, and I've tried my best to look for them, there are virtually no natural disadvantages to the material. It is extremely durable and can fit into almost any formulation. A big disadvantage is that its costing and technology are the primary hurdles in the implementation of sugar surfactants. That being said, this is the right time to engage in how we may improve our new and existing products through development of better raw materials. And just to end here, the collective goal that we hope to be part of is that history has shown us that nature holds many solutions to modern problems, and returning to what it offers us is imperative if we are to make a push towards more sustainable and better products. As the world focuses on the human footprint, we are in an ideal position to develop products that evolve in tandem with socio-political requirements. If we begin now, we will be able to build a foundation upon which we can continue to grow in a profitable manner. And here at ECOF Industries, our vision for sustainability, ECOF Industries was created with the ideology of constantly evolving manufacturing processes, and also balancing ecological sustainability and performance. Our foray into sustainable raw materials starts with the phasing in of renewable surfactants, and with that in mind, we set up a specialty surfactant manufacturing plant with an emphasis on the production of alkyl polyglucosides, or APG, or more commonly known as sugar surfactants. So that's it. If anyone has any questions or concerns regarding anything that I've spoken about, as I said, there is quite a lot to go through, but please feel free to contact me on my email here at any time, and I'll be happy to discuss any questions or concerns that anyone has. Thank you very much. And also, just on a side note, thank you very much to Mr. Trivedi and for inviting us to speak here. And yeah, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, my friends. Today, I'm going to talk on innovation from X to bioferment. Herbal extracts have been used since time immemorial as herbal medicine, and Ayurveda has almost 5,000 years old rich heritage for using plant extracts, which is added into cosmetics for associated properties like antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiseptic, and antimicrobial. Extracts are made from a part of herbs using solvents such as methanol or water. These extracts basically represent naturally occurring phytochemicals. Indian subcontinents have more than 45,000 plant species. The theoretical usefulness of herbal extracts come from the chemicals of which they are composed of. And these chemicals are vitamins, proteins, amino acids, enzymes, carbohydrates, fatty acids, phospholipids, flavonoids, polyphenols, carotenoids, retinoids, and alpha hydroxy acids. There are minerals like potassium, magnesium, calcium, etc. Now, let us talk about fermentation. In India, fermentation has been practiced for almost 3,000 years old practice it is, and it has been practiced. In India, it has been used for food as well as for drugs in Ayurveda, like asavas and aristas are the type of fermented Ayurvedic drugs which are being used. A sweet substance known as soma juice was prepared by Vedic Aryans, and it is supposed to be the first fermented product of India. Another drink, which is soma, is also prepared using fermentation. Fermentation is actually a metabolic process. It induces the chemical changes in organic substrates through the action of enzyme, through which molecules are broken down. The microorganisms such as yeast, bacteria, ferments natural substrates like plant biomass, fruits, vegetables, natural oils to give new unique natural product richer in vitamins, peptides, beneficial enzymes, and probiotics. So basically, fermentation is an enzymatically controlled process based on energy-rich compounds like carbohydrates into carbon dioxide and alcohol or an organic acid. Fermentation has been used in foods for thousands of years. Like yeast has been used to ferment sugar in grapes to make wine, and bacteria have been used to produce vinegar. The commonly used food in our country, idli and dosa, are prepared in fermentation. Fermented foods such as kombucha, kimchi, and kefir has been very, very popular in the world over. Now, let us know what is bioferment and why bioferment in place of herbal liquid extract. Herbal liquid extracts are basically extracted using solvents like water, propylene glycol, or glycerine. Whereas in bioferments basically is enzymatic, in which enzymatic action breaks down longer component of molecule into simpler molecules. In liquid extract, the concentration of active molecule is very less, and the extracted molecules are in complex form. Liquid extracts have less bioavailability and low activity, whereas bioferments are readily absorbed by skin, has high bioavailability, has higher active concentration, has very high activity, it has increased oxygen uptake, it gives very good moisturizing effect and reduces skin irritation. Actually, ferments such as probiotics, enzyme, bacteria, or yeast have been used in cosmetics for years. Basically, enzyme help to maintain our skin microbiome. Microbiome is an important part of skin's barrier function. A balanced microbiome means that the skin looks healthy, radiant, and regenerates itself better. More recent use of fermented natural ingredients are in practice rather than only ferment. We at Kumar Organics have bouquet of bioferments, and it is used in a unique way of introducing natural actives to the skin through formulations. So we have a product like cop raditol, which is derived from radish, cop caratol, which is derived from carrot, and cop cyatol, which is derived from soya. Bioferments are basically used in cosmetics and personal care application by employing principle of fermentation. Bioavailability of actives is increased by fermentation. Biofermented ingredients provide increased skin and hair affinity. And by initiating fermentation, various cosmetic benefits such as improved bioactive delivery, oxygen uptake, moisturization, and reduction in skin irritation can be increased. A fermented ingredient has more acidic pH, which has better affinity for skin. The fermentation process transforms the ingredient. That means it breaks down their molecular structure. Fermented ingredients have smaller, simpler molecules, which allows them to penetrate the skin more deeply and quickly. Fermentation adds nutrients such as amino acids and peptides to the ingredients and make the fermented ingredient richer in antioxidants than its unfermented version. The advantage of bioferments are that they are natural and biodegradable. Bioferments are easily absorbed by the skin and nourishes with its bioactives. They are rich in antioxidants, minerals, vitamins, and phytoactives. They moisturize the skin and scalp. And bioferments are usually water soluble, does not contain any solvent, and are easily absorbed by the skin. They are safe for skin and are used as a replacement to liquid extract and provide better efficacy. For example, this is the impact of fermentation activity of radish roots, carrot roots, and soybean on antioxidant. If you see in this graph, you will find that fermented products have very high antioxidant activity compared to non-fermented, which shows different activity as ascorbic acid equivalents. And if you see, the various extracts have been compared with cop caratol, which is fermented product, and the difference is noticeable here. With respect to moisturizing activity or moisturization study that has been carried out, you can see that as the time passes, its effect is much better compared to other controlled, untreated control, base cream, or the competitor's ingredient. Similarly, if we compare marketed product with cop-carotol cream, if you see the cop-carotol cream is having much better efficacy than the various other ingredients that is being used in the product. Its doses in the product is 1 to 5%, and temperature of addition usually is 50 degree or less than 50 degree. It can be used in various hair and scalp care products like shampoo, conditioner, creams and lotions, serum, hair growth products, packs and masks, scalp food, hair and scalp treatments. In skincare products, it can also be used as creams and lotion, serums, bubble bath, packs and masks, face and body cleanser, body sprays, body butters. It can also be used in color cosmetics. It can be used in skin treatments, and it can also be used in after shaving products. I must thank you for patience listening. And if you have any query, you can put forth your questions and the reply can be given to you. Thank you.
Thank you, first of all, to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to speak to all of you at this forum. We are living in very strange times, and I don't need to tell you the significant changes that it has brought about over the last 1.5 years in the way we conduct our businesses. And this kind of seems to be the new normal for organizing conferences. And I must compliment Sanjay Trivedi and his team for putting this event together. I was asked to speak on the business of raw materials for home care and some of the impacts that are being felt in this value chain for several of these products. As you are well aware, there is a whole host of raw materials which are used in home care products. But I thought I will focus my presentation, my talk on just one, but probably the most important, which are the surfactants. Now, as you are well aware, surfactants are extremely versatile products, both in the chemistries that they are made from and the applications that they are put to. Acting at the physical interface of heterogeneous systems, such as oil and water, surfactants perform tasks such as cleaning, emulsification, dispersion, etc. While there are several industrial applications for surfactants, including in sectors as diverse as textiles, food, agrochemicals, and oil drilling, to name just a few, it is the home care segment, particularly in personal wash and in laundry, that is most widely known. In personal care products, to cite just one more example, in addition to their cleansing role, surfactants are key to keeping diverse, physically incompatible ingredients stable in a formulation long enough for it to deliver the performance that is required. Demand for surfactants is obviously shaped by the growth dynamics of the end-use markets that they serve. And much of this growth is happening today in the developing world. Elsewhere, demand is plodding along at a tepid pace, though there are other dynamics that give a leg up to one set of products at the expense of another. Of these, the green trend is probably the most significant today. Surfactants that have a better sustainability profile and lesser impact on the environment during manufacture, use, and discharge, particularly into water bodies, are finding resonance with consumer-facing companies which are eager to burnish their green credentials. Let me first turn my attention to a key feedstock for making surfactants, namely linear alkyl benzene. A large chunk of the raw material needed to make surfactants come from the petrochemical value chain. And of this, linear alkyl benzene is probably the most important. In its sulfonated form, commonly referred to as LABS and also as acid slurry, commonly in India, it is the workhorse surfactant of the world and has been so for several years now, and for good reasons. LAB has been around for the better part of 75 years, has been extremely well studied for its performance and ecological impacts, and despite some shortcomings, seems here to stay. Now, LAB is produced by alkylating benzene with straight chain olefins, which are in the C10 to C13 range. And these are obtained by selective dehydrogenation of straight chain paraffins, also known as normal paraffins or NPs. These non-normal paraffins, in turn, are produced from the kerosene fraction of a crude oil refinery. So there you have the link between LAB and the refinery. And this is significant today because the world is now graduating to a stage where less and less of liquid fuels are going to be needed, and investments in new refineries are going to become rarer and rarer. Existing ones are also being repurposed to make more of chemicals than of fuels. And this will have complications for the availability of chains such as kerosene. One of the other issues with making LAB is the technology which is needed to make it. And this is almost always been a purview of a handful of companies. And even fewer of them make this technology available for licensing. Indian LAB producers have gone on record to state that at least one of the factors that has deterred new investments in LAB projects in India is the high fees demanded by the licensors that render new projects unviable. The tragedy here is that despite all the efforts and all the infrastructure that we have in terms of research laboratories, both in the private and in the public sector, we have been unable to make a dent in developing technologies for several of these important raw materials, such as LAB. Now, LAB manufacturing technology has also evolved over the years, particularly with respect to the use of the catalyst, which is needed in the alkylating step. In the olden days, aluminum chloride was the favored one, but it is no longer in use. And although hydrofluoric acid, which replaced aluminum chloride and now accounts for majority of the LAB production today, there is a further development and new plants are now being built with a switch to solid bed alkylation technologies. Downstream processing steps have also evolved, especially to remove the diolefins and unwanted aromatic components so as to improve process yields and offer a better performing product. Now, LAB is a pure petrochemical. It is, as I pointed out earlier, produced either by a refiner or someone close to a refiner. There are, however, a few LAB producers who depend on the merchant market for normal paraffins, and this is an internationally traded product as well. To improve the sustainability profile of LAB, efforts are ongoing to alter the paraffin source from a refinery to vegetable oils. This rides alongside efforts to develop renewable diesel and jet fuels from hydrogenated vegetable oils, HVOs for short, which are obtained from natural oils, fats, and used cooking oils. For example, the Finnish company Neste is a pioneer in HVO technology and has a process that it uses to produce renewable diesel and jet fuels. And there are other versions of the technology available as well from companies like Honeywell, UOP, Accents, ThyssenKrupp, etc. While the market focus is currently on making renewable diesel and jet fuel, HVO could actually be a route to normal paraffins as well. IHS Market consultancy estimates that a 500 KT renewable diesel plant can yield about 200 KT of paraffins, of which the bulk, almost 90%, will be isoparaffins and the balance 10% normal paraffins that can serve as a feedstock for LAB. The LAB so produced can be touted to have some renewable content, though the benzene would be still of petrochemical origin. Let me take my focus closer home and look at some of the trends in the Indian market. India made a modest beginning in the late 1970s when the first LAB plant was commissioned by IPCL, now part of Reliance, at Vadodara. Subsequently, several other producers came into making LAB, and the list included Reliance Industries, Tamil Nadu Petrochemicals Limited in Chennai, and Nirma in Gujarat. All of them set up LAB plants. And the last entrant was Indian Oil Corporation, which commissioned a 120 KT LAB plant in August 2004. It's a matter of worry that since 2004, there has been no new LAB capacity in the country. And then all of the market demand has essentially been met through imports. And the market growth has been substantial, and imports have consequently increased year on year. And now they account for almost a little more than 1/3 of the total volumes of LAB consumed in the country. A major portion of the LAB, which is produced, almost 95% and probably even more, is employed for the production of LABS by reaction with sulfuric acid in a liquid phase or by sulfur trioxide in a gaseous phase. The LABS is then neutralized with caustic soda to form its sodium salt, which is then used in the manufacture of synthetic detergents in liquid, cake, or powder form. In terms of sulfonation capacity, I think India has got adequate sulfonation capacity, at least for the moment, but its sophistication varies. Newer sulfonation plants rely on a technology called thin film sulfonation, and this yields a superior product with a higher active content of about 96% as compared to the 90% grade produced by most of the older plants. But as with many other things in India, there is a substantial market for the lower grade LABS as well, and they are not going to go away anytime soon. In fact, India is the world's largest producer of 90% LABS with an installed capacity of more than 1.25 million tons per annum and the next exporter. Curiously, even though India is a net importer of LAB, it is a net exporter of LABS. The capacity for the 96% grade of LABS is, of course, lower, of the order of about 400 KTPA, but this too has grown significantly in recent times. If you were to look at the surfactant usage in India, I mean, there, without a shadow of doubt, it is clear that LAB is the dominant surfactant, and it is expected that it will stay that way at least for some times, and this is for several good reasons. For one, LABS is extremely well suited to the unique laundry market here in India, with the dominance of powder detergents and the practice of hand washing. The making of detergent powders is often very, very rudimentary, and there is great familiarity in formulating with LABS. To no surprise, therefore, the LABS market in India is still continuing to see demand growth of the order of about 5%. And I believe there is no reason that this could not continue. The constrained availability of LAB could, however, provide the opportunity for other surfactants to make a much more significant presence in India than hitherto. And at the top of this list, I think are two. One are the alpha olefin sulfonates, and the other are the fatty alcohol ethoxylates. India has a long history of using alpha olefin sulfonates, but the experience has been a very mixed one. AOS consumption did gain some traction as a co-surfactant, but volumes tend to go up and down depending on its relative pricing with respect to LABS. Again, the key raw material here, the alpha olefin, is all imported, and the time has come for the Indian petrochemical industry at least to consider at least one large-scale alpha olefin plant at any of the projects that are currently in the planning stage. But like for LAB, the manufacturing technology for alpha olefins is also very, very closely held and has been denied to India in the past. And there is no saying that it would be available. And it will take probably at least a joint venture in order to be able to access this technology. In the case of fatty alcohol ethoxylates, which are used as such or in their sulfated forms, their usage represents probably just about 10% of the Indian surfactant usage today. And this has been showing a growth which is slightly above the average growth for the surfactants as a whole. Availability of fatty alcohol ethoxylates hinges on two critical raw materials, fatty alcohols and ethylene oxide. And at the moment at least, both of them are adequately available in the country. But that picture could change, especially for ethylene oxide. India is a net exporter of fatty alcohols. It has got two producers who have significant scale. And even though they are dependent on imported palm-based feedstocks and other raw materials for their plants, India has managed to remain a net exporter for all of these years. As far as EO is concerned, ethoxylate manufacture needs a purified EO, which comes as a side stream from an ethylene oxide plant, which is primarily built to make monoethylene glycol, MEG, which is a feedstock for making polyester. For now, the global markets for MEG are long and access to it has been relatively easy. But if this does turn around, EO producers in India may choose to divert more of the EO that they produce to MEG. And this may compromise the availability of purified EO available for the ethoxylate industry. In any case, Indian production of purified ethylene oxide is in the hands of just one producer, namely Reliance Industries, which serves the market from 4 sites, one of which has been now shut down. So basically 3 sites. And the other producer, India Glycols Limited, which recently formed a joint venture with the specialty chemical company Clariant to build an ethoxylate derivatives, into which the ethoxylate derivatives business has been transferred. The capacity, as I said before, for purified EO is kind of adequate for the current need. But as the requirement rises, supply could be a constraint in maybe another 3 or 4 years' time, assuming that no other capacity comes online. Petrochemical companies again must factor this into the product slates that they plan at some of the new projects that they are contemplating. One of the other issues that I would like to flag as far as ethylene oxide is concerned is the availability, is not the availability, but the logistics of moving it from the point of production to the point of consumption. Nearly all of it is now by road, and I don't have to tell you the hazards associated with driving on Indian roads, and all the more so when you are carrying 20 or 30 tons of a nasty product like ethylene oxide. There are some efforts to build pipelines in which ethylene oxide can be transported from point of production to point of consumption. And I believe that something will come through very soon. But this transportation over long distances by road does pose a vulnerability for the industry, which is, in my view, a fairly worrisome one. In the United States, this concern has led to a relook at a scheme for producing ethylene oxide from ethanol. And a leading derivatives producer, namely Croda, has put up a captive purified ethylene oxide production plant purely to avoid the hassles of moving this raw material around, even by railroad, let alone trucks. India actually does produce ethylene oxide via the ethanol route. And this ethanol is bio-based. So the purified ethylene oxide and the surfactants derived therefrom do have a bio content in them and are able to attract a special kind of attention from consumers looking to burnish their green credentials. In summary, I'd like to state that surfactant demand will certainly continue to expand in India. But the kind of products in use and their relative share will be shaped by the availability of their raw materials. And it is vital to invest in capacity for a whole range of the latter, so that the Indian surfactant industry, and hence the home care industry as well, has the resources that it needs in order to meet its growth aspirations. Thank you very much. And once again, my thanks to the organizers for inviting me to speak.
Friends, we have come to the end of the virtual seminar on pandemic dynamics. I'm sure the participants, the delegates, and the speakers have provided insights of value to all of us as we move forward. I would like to summarize the virtual seminar. Can I have the next slide, please? Which basically has covered up industry challenges, the changing consumer profiles, the changing environment, the changing regulatory mechanisms. I will not get into details of any one of these. Can I have the next slide, please? I will harp on one single thing, which is a changing environment, which is under stress with the water shortages and the major move to digital and technological innovations. Evolution, which is driving major change. Next slide, please. So the challenges ahead for us is clearly water. Water is short. We need to move away and educate all consumers that high foam does not mean high clean. And we need to move towards an area where we use less water for washing because water is going to be an expensive affair for washing clothes. It is also going to be very stressful. Carrying water across to wash clothes is not the right alternative. We have to look at low foam actives, good hard water resistant active matters, and sourcing from renewables. Next slide, please. The mantra is save water, save energy, save trees, reduce plastic use. And I think this is a collective responsibility for all the home care sector, not only the producers, but also the users. We have to move away from our 1 kilo plastic bags where we buy detergent powders to reduce plastic use. Today, we are producing 15 million bags of plastic waste per day, and that is shameful. I'm sure all of us as users can contribute a little bit by moving to a better packed concentrated form of product. Next slide, please. The key elements of sustainable consumption and production were listed out by the various speakers who talked about it. I have just summarized this in the chart of sustainable lifestyle, waste management, sustainable resource management, design of sustainable products, clean production and resource efficiencies. And all these were covered well by the speakers. So I will not go into details of this, but I think the focus is on sustainable consumption and production. Next slide, please. The 5 big pivots are moving from petrochemical ingredients to renewable resources, moving from high carbon chemistry to low carbon products that work quick and in cold wash, avoid wastage of water. This is a necessity. It is driven by our need today and the shortage of water. Move away from single-use plastics, as I mentioned earlier, to recyclable, refillable, reusable plastics. And move away from the distrust in chemicals. We have to be innovative. We have to move away to having products which can be made green and designed to build customer trust. There are so many products that can be made from fatty acids, which are from renewable sources. And we have to build this. We have been using no more tear shampoos for children, which are made from fatty acids and specialty surfactants. So we have to build this trust more for the washing side and not only just talk of costs. Cost at the end of the day will be affordable if we design and innovate properly. Next slide, please. So the clean future technology unlocks performance, affordability, better for the planet, better for me, and clean future unlocks all these. So it's a necessary vision to be inculcated by every member who uses home care products. Next slide, please. Natural surfactants, I have repeated that in the past. We need to move from the large anionic surfactants, which are fossil fuel based, to naturally available surfactants, which are from fatty acids, which can be reacted to form betanes, for example, carboxylates, sulfur succinates, non-ionics, and a range of products. Okay, because today 36% of the total natural surfactant markets is occupied by non-ionics, and there's no reason with why India cannot follow that track by making ethylene oxide derivatives and building on the non-ionic platform. Next slide, please. Sustainable Development Goals that India has reported back is SDG 3, 6, 9, and 12. And I've provided the links here for anyone who is interested to go and read the details. Next slide, please. To summarize, I would thank everyone who has participated in making this virtual seminar effective and successful. I would thank all the speakers, all the sponsors, all the supporters, all the delegates who have taken time out to attend this program. I would request you to pen down and note the date for the next physical meet in Goa, IHPCI 2022, which will be a convention and exhibition on soaps, detergent, and cosmetics. It is going to be held at the Alila Diva in Goa from July 10 to 12, 2022. We look forward to active participation and physical presence by all those who attended today's seminar, and the home care industry and the surfactant specialties industry at large. That program will also have additional interaction for students. So there'll be a student interaction program. There'll also be an initiative for dialogue between academia and industry. So be there at ISDC 2022, and I look forward to all of you remaining safe and healthy. And before I conclude, we will be hosting the SDEC 2023 in Goa. The dates haven't been announced, but I will let you know. SDEC is the Asia Oceania Soap Detergent Association Committee meeting, which is held once in 2 years. This year it was held in Beijing in China. And we look forward to a global participation for this event in 2023. So with this, I thank everyone. I would wish everyone stay safe, take care, and wish you all the best. Thank you.